Immortal Cultivation family, starting with extreme effort to gain experience. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Encounter. However, Lin Kaoshin knew that he could no longer proceed step by step as before. He thought carefully and organized his words before saying, "There are many tribulation cultivators in Baekhyang Ridge, including great cultivators at the Jinden or even unyielding level. You ask me to be your guide, and you only need to pay a certain amount of toll, and you can get through safely." Lu Ya's eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked at Lin Kaoshin and confirmed, "Are you sure there are tribulation cultivators at the unyielding level?" Lin Kaoshin was aroused by Lu Ya's murderous intent, and his hair stood on end. He replied with a stiff face, "Absolutely true, but those big guys usually stay in the mountain village and will not act easily. How many unyielding tribulation cultivators are there? I don't know." The smile on Lin Kaoshin's face had long disappeared, and he answered in panic in the face of Lu Ya's inquiry. "Then how much toll do we need to pay to safely pass through Baekhyang Ridge?" This, Lin Kaoshin had big beads of sweat on his forehead. He hesitated for a long time before carefully answering, "The robbery repair will judge based on the resources carried. Generally speaking, a flying boat costs between 1,000 and 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. Of course, if it is those individual merchants, they will charge per person, and at most will only charge a toll of half the value of the goods. When they arrive in Dongshan domain, they can still make 3 to 4 times the profit by reselling them." Lu Ya laughed and asked, "Generally speaking. Then tell me, how many spirit stones do we need for our 3 flying boats?" Lin Kaoshin was regretting it to the point of his intestines. Why did he rush ahead of others and run so fast to die? This villain doesn't know that the resources in the flying boat can only be confirmed after those big figures have confirmed it. Big figures, those robbery repairs you mentioned? Do you have to check the flying boat? Lu Ya rubbed his fingers and said, "Yes, but not everyone needs to be checked. Seniors like you generally don't need to be checked," Lin Kaoshin added quickly. "Haha, Lin Kaoshin, do you have any way to take us through Baekhyang Ridge?" Lu Ya chuckled, and the power fluctuations of the soul-bewitching spell in his voice reached Lin Kaoshin's ears. In an instant, the panic on Lin Kaoshin's face disappeared, and he answered dully like a puppet, "There is no way. There are robbery cultivators everywhere in the mountain. No matter which road we take, we will be discovered." "Then do you know which road has the least robbery cultivators and the weakest strength?" Lin Kaoshin continued to answer. After a while, Lu Ya waved his hand and lifted the soul-bewitching spell. Lin Kaoshin regained control of his body at this moment. His face was pale, and his eyes were full of fear when he looked at Lu Ya. Lu Ya said without any concern, "Let's go. Take me across Baekhyang Ridge. You live, otherwise you die. Don't doubt and don't do anything. You are a smart person." Lin Kaoshin nodded like pounding garlic, cautiously landed on the deck, and began to point the way. The flying boat slowly moved towards Baekhyang Ridge. In the process of approaching Baekhyang Ridge, Lu Ya had already informed Lu Dingbo and others that all the Lu clan members were ready for battle. Soon, the Lu clan flying boat arrived at Baekhyang Ridge and gradually entered the thick ice fog. The ice fog was extremely thick and had the effect of blocking spiritual consciousness. The visibility with the naked eye was even less than 10 meters. Even with Lu Ya's eyesight, he could only see things about 10 meters in front of him. Lin Kaoshin took 2 steps towards Lu Ya and whispered, "Senior, there are spies of robbers everywhere above the ice fog. Unless you pay a toll, you can only walk in the ice fog to pass safely. The ice fog blocks spiritual consciousness, but there are no fewer robbers than above the ice fog. The route we take is relatively remote. If we are lucky, we can avoid the robbers on the road and get through safely. Well, lead the way." Lu Ya retracted some of the murderous intent lingering around him and nodded. Lin Kaoshin breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and concentrated on pointing the way. Even if he could get a lot of spirit stones by bringing Lu Ya and others to the robbers, he could still tell the difference between his life and spirit stones. After flying in the ice fog for several days, he didn't encounter a single person, but Lu Ya killed many monsters in the ice fog. Although the monsters in the ice fog are not strong, basically around the 2nd level, they have long assimilated with the environment. The ice fog is their home ground. Basically, when they are discovered, it means that they have already launched an attack. Fortunately, With the protection brought by the star-seeking and destiny instrument, these monsters will be discovered by Lu Ya the moment they appear, and then they will be attacked with a finger of extermination, killing the monsters on the spot. After 2 days, Lin Kaoshan's face was haggard and his eyes were full of bloodshot. Obviously, 2 days of finding the way and facing the killing intentions at any time have exhausted him. He forced himself to be energetic, staring at the seemingly unchanging scene in front of him and said, "Senior, at most 1 day, we can walk out of the ice fog and pass through Baekyeong Ridge." Lu Ya nodded, thought for a while and threw out a jade bottle. "There's a pill in the bottle, refine it as soon as possible to replenish the consumption." Lin Kaoshan immediately thanked him profusely, and then opened the jade bottle in front of Lu Ya, took out a pill with a strong medicinal fragrance from it, and swallowed it into his stomach. After the pill entered his stomach, a spiritual energy accompanied by warmth began to radiate to his limbs and bones. Lin Kaoshan was shocked, and then he carefully sealed the jade bottle and put it into his storage bag. 1 day later, as the ice fog in front of him became thinner and thinner, visibility also increased, which also indicated that they were about to walk out of the ice fog. Compared with Lu Ya's calmness, Lin Kaoshan was quite excited at this time. "Senior, we are about to walk out of the ice fog. Smuggling across Baekyeong Mountain, not many people can do this. With this record, he can completely take the route of a private guide in the future. Compared with working for a robber cultivator, starting his own business will earn much more." Just when Lin Kaoshan was excited, a monk who was meditating suddenly appeared at the corner of the stone pillar in front. The moment he saw the Lu family flying boat, his eyes suddenly widened, and without saying a word, he slapped his storage bag, and a red light jumped out of his storage bag and rushed into the sky. Lu Ya's eyes and hands were quick, and as soon as he thought about it, a bolt of lightning was directly triggered, crossing the space, and in just a moment, it hit the tribulation cultivator who was only at the foundation building stage, and immediately turned him into charcoal. Then, he pointed with one hand, and a wisp of white wind caught up with a leaping red light in a very short time, annihilating it in the air. Until then, Lin Kaoshan's voice reached Lu Ya's ears, "Senior, you can't kill him. There are magic weapons among the tribulation cultivators. As long as they die, the other tribulation cultivators will know immediately. Soon, some tribulation cultivators will rush towards us. Let's rush out." Lu Ya heard this and made a prompt decision. With a single order, the 3 flying boats were fully powered, breaking through the fog and clouds. In just a few breaths, they increased their speed to the limit and rushed forward. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 277 Giant Spirit. Under the mountains, in the ice fog that could block the divine consciousness, a black dragon formed by 3 huge flying boats rushed out with a large amount of white ice fog, and a strong spiritual light burst out without reservation, moving rapidly towards the vast sky outside the mountains. "Hurry, hurry, hurry," Lin Kaoshan kept chanting, and at the same time, he looked at the surrounding mountains with horror. Lu Ya had stood up from his cross-legged meditation, and his magic power flowed through his body. His spiritual palm had taken shape, ready to fight at any time. The flying boat dragon rushed out of the ice fog, and it didn't take long to fly. A series of rainbow lights flew towards the flying boat like a swallow returning to its nest. At a glance, there were at least 30 of them. "It's over. It's over. I've been discovered." Lin Kaoshan's face was gray and his lips trembled. If it weren't for the support of magic power, he might have collapsed to the ground at this time. "You sneaked across my Baekyeong Ridge and killed my Yangtze League members. Where do you want to go?" A loud shout came from Lu Ya's side, and then he saw a stream of light leaping down from the top of a distant mountain, like a comet dragging a rainbow light and rapidly smashing down towards the flying boat. The person has not arrived yet, but the breath that attracts people has almost turned into substance and pressed down towards Lu Ya, who was standing on the top of the flying boat. The person's breath has reached the level of the late Jinden. Yangtze League, the most ruthless and cruel force of robbery cultivators. They are different from other robbery cultivators. Anyone who is targeted by them will basically die. "Senior, run away." Lin Kaoshan, who was already in a trance, was like a cat that was electrocuted after hearing the name of Yangtze League. His hair exploded all over his body, and he shouted to Lu Ya in a hurried tone. Ruthless, Lu Ya looked up at the late Jinden cultivator who was falling like a comet. The other party did not hold back at all when he attacked, and he really deserved the word ruthless. However, it seemed that a late Jinden cultivator alone could not stop him. Ignoring Lin Kaoshan's warning and fear, Lu Ya soared into the air from the top of the flying boat and turned into a golden rainbow. In the horrified eyes of Lin Kaoshan, he rushed towards the giant and cultivator, who fell from the top of the mountain with a fearless attitude. In order to avoid attracting more attention, Lu Ya did not use his powerful magical power, but simply kept tapping his hands, and one after another, the finger of extermination was directed at the giant to kill. As soon as the finger of extermination appeared, it disappeared into the void again. In a few flashes, it was close to the giant. After killing again and again, the power of the finger of extermination became stronger and stronger. Today, ordinary third-level protective spells can no longer play a corresponding protective role under the attack of the finger of extermination. Feeling the faint pain coming from different parts of the body, the pupils of the giant who jumped from the top of the mountain shrank, and the strong mana surged, turning into the most solid defense, protecting himself in it. A series of hit sounds came from the defense on his body. The strong impact again and again caused his speed to slow down. When the distance between the two was less than 50 feet, the momentum he created by falling had been completely offset. I am Shi Yuheo, the 9th helmsman of Yangxiao League. Come and die. The giant and cultivator of Yangxiao League looked down at Lu Ya, who was rushing towards him, and suddenly shouted loudly. Then the surging mana gathered in front of him, forming a large handprint and pressing down on Lu Ya. Judging from the posture, if Lu Ya was hit, he would definitely lose his combat effectiveness in an instant. Lu Ya felt the sense of confinement in the space around him, and the feeling that he could not avoid it, and he suddenly understood it in his heart. Use mana to resonate with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, so as to form a locking and confinement effect, so that the attack will definitely hit. His eyes were calm, but he saw a ray of flame coming out from his body, covering every part of his body in a very short time. The terrifying high temperature burned the air, and even made a sizzling sound of roasting. The next moment, Lu Ya suddenly disappeared from Shi Yuheo's sight, and when he reappeared, he had already passed a big handprint and appeared about 30 feet in front of him. As one of the 12 helmsmen of Yangxiao League, Shi Yuheo was first-rate in both strength and vision. Seeing Lu Ya suddenly appear not far in front of him, he reacted very quickly. A flash of light flashed on his palm, and a scarlet flag fell into his hand. With a big flag in hand, he waved a big flag in his hand vigorously at Lu Ya. The scarlet light on the big flag shone brightly, and a faint roar came from the flag, and then the fishy wind whistled, turning into ferocious beast heads with black smoke and rushing towards Lu Ya. 10,000 Beasts flag. The person coming is the 9th helmsman known as the Beast King in Yangxiao League. Lin Kaoshan groaned and turned his head to run to the edge of the flying boat. At this time, although he would still face the pursuit of the other monks of Yangxiao League, he still had a glimmer of hope. If he stayed on the flying boat, he would be wiped out when the 9 helmsmen came to kill him. Lu Ya looked at the hideous beast head attacking him. His expression did not change at all, and he took a breath suddenly. His consciousness suddenly stimulated his mana and blood in an instant. The surging blood and mana in his body surged and even burned. A blazing and wild breath instantly erupted from Lu Ya's body. In just a moment, Lu Ya had transformed into a giant with a height of 3 meters and bulging muscles. It was the Blood River Giant Body technique. Feeling the blood and mana in his body surging like a river, Lu Ya suddenly clenched his hands, and a piercing sonic boom sounded from his hands. A trace of scarlet murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he looked up at the golden elixir monk holding a large flag behind the beast head. Being stared at by Lu Ya at this moment, Shi Yuheo felt a sense of being stared at by a top predator. He subconsciously tightened the flagpole in his hand. Bang! Lu Ya's mind moved, and his giant spirit-like body, with the blessing of the swift wind escape, instantly broke through the sticky air in front of him and disappeared in Shi Yuheo's eyes like lightning. Intense fear emerged from Shi Yuheo's eyes. He knew how wrong he was. He was actually approached so closely by a giant and cultivator who specialized in physical cultivation. He waved the big flag in his hand vigorously, and the beast heads that were originally rushing towards Lu Ya turned around and turned into black light and flew towards Shi Yuheo's position. But before he could wave twice, Lu Ya, who was like a giant, had already appeared beside him. Lu Ya opened his 2 big hands like a palm leaf fan, and then his 2 thick arms like pillars swung loudly and clasped them together in front of him. Boom! With a loud bang, spiritual energy, magic power, and air were forced to retreat in all directions under Lu Ya's great force. In front of his palm, it seemed as if a short vacuum black hole was formed, and the sound waves that were enough to tear the monster apart were all vented on Shi Yuheo's body, which was only 10 feet away. Shi Yuheo's brain made a buzzing sound, and his consciousness suddenly became like a candle in the wind, shaky and falling. Chapter 278 All solved. Not good. Shi Yuheo felt an extremely bad feeling when he was attacked by the sound wave. But before he could activate his life-saving magic weapon, he found that his body was completely out of control. The white wind accompanied by Luya's palms had completely penetrated Shi Yuheo's body defense and invaded his body and soul. Soul-stirring and bone-eroding Guangmo Feng. When Shi Yuheo tried his best to break free from the influence of this inexplicable wind, he saw a giant hand that seemed to be able to destroy the sky and overturn everything in the world, and it had already slapped him hard. No, Shi Yuheo's eyes were bloodshot, and he roared. His face was red as blood, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood, which turned into a blood-colored spiritual shield to block him. The blood-colored spiritual shield had just taken shape when Luya's big hand fell. The overbearing power contained in the big hand collided with a blood-colored spiritual shield, and the void seemed to have thunderous explosions, and a circle of visible ripples spread, distorting the surrounding space. Stop it, Shi Yuheo roared again, pouring his magic power into the blood-colored spiritual shield in front of him as if it was free. The next second, in his incredible eyes, dense cracks appeared on the blood-colored spiritual shield, and then it exploded into pieces all over the sky, turning into blood and falling down again. Puff, the blood-colored spiritual shield was shattered, and Shi Yuheo spat out a mouthful of blood with his mind connected. The beast is coming, he waved his hand and was about to pull the beast's head to block Luya's attack for him. Facing Shi Yuheo's resistance, Luya's arm swung again, and the power as fierce as a volcanic eruption instantly erupted, pushing his arm to pierce out like lightning. He pinched his palm into a claw, and his 5 fingers broke through the air. Luya's palm covered Shi Yuheo's head. Shi Yuheo's eyes blurred, and the next moment the overwhelming force from his head made him instantly understand his situation. Wait, it's all a mistake. Shi Yuheo's face changed drastically, and he opened his mouth to ask for mercy. But Luya was not moved at all, and clenched his hands suddenly. With a pop, a sound like a ripe watermelon bursting sounded, and red and white objects flew everywhere, and were blown aside before they reached him. Luya threw his hands, and his 5 fingers were as smooth as before, without a speck of dust. I will never let you go. A sharp, shrill, hysterical voice sounded from not far away. Shi Yuheo's soul floated in the air, and his eyes revealed a strong and insoluble resentment, staring at Luya. After saying that, he turned around and was about to turn into a stream of light and leave this place. When a giant and cultivator dies, his soul can be exposed independently between heaven and earth, and without the restraint of the flesh, the speed of the soul can be said to be 1,000 miles in an instant, and it is not easy to stop it. Before the soul is annihilated, as long as a suitable host is found in time, it can perform the act of taking over the body and start over with a new body. Of course, taking over a body is an act against heaven, and the success rate is extremely low. No cultivator will take this path unless it is absolutely necessary. However, generally speaking, when cultivators fight, their magic power is usually surging. If one party dies, not only the physical body dies, but the soul will also be annihilated in the magic power at the same time, and the soul will not escape. However, Luya used pure physical strength. Although he killed the opponent in a flash, he allowed the opponent's soul to escape and was not annihilated. Shi Yuheo's soul turned into a breeze, and it was about to disappear completely from Luya's perception. But the next moment, a trace of purple thunder flashed in Luya's eyes. An invisible soul thunder burst out from Luya's eyes, crossed the space, and hit Shi Yuheo's soul body. Suddenly, Shi Yuheo's soul stood still in the void, and then dissipated with a wind. The 9 helmsmen of Yangxiao League, who had been in Biqiangling for decades, died in front of everyone. What about the soul? The thunder in Luya's eyes disappeared, and his body also returned to its original size in an instant. After Luya's palm thunder gave birth to supernatural powers, the heart thunder and other spells he had comprehended were naturally integrated. Although the power was not as strong as that obtained through his own hard practice, if there was a need, the thunder method could be used at will. This soul thunder was like this. Under normal circumstances, let alone a cultivator in the late giant stage like Shi Yuheo, even a cultivator in the late foundation building stage, being attacked by Luya's soul thunder would only feel that the soul was moderately electrocuted, and there would be no danger to life. However, if it was just the soul that could be dissipated by the wind of heaven and earth, Lu Ya's soul thunder was enough to turn it into ashes. Lu Ya stretched out his hand and the storage ring on the corpse. The scarlet flag in his hand automatically flew into his hand. He threw it directly into the storage ring without even looking at it. Then he looked at the other cultivators who came, and the murderous intent in his eyes was not concealed. Facing Lu Ya's gaze, the monks of Yanzhao League were stiff. Just now, their immediate superior, the nine-headmaster of Yanzhao League, had been killed instantly by the other party. At this moment, facing such a terrifying monk, the only thing they could do was to run as far as possible. He is a physical cultivator. I bet he can't kill all of us before his physical strength is exhausted, someone shouted, and the next moment, the monks of Yanzhao League who were rushing in quickly fled in all directions at a faster speed. In fact, before a life and death crisis, people only need to do one thing well. That is, they don't need to outrun the existence that creates death, they just need to outrun their teammates. With this idea in mind, the monks of Yanzhao League played all their trump cards and used all their strength to escape. Unfortunately, the speed at which they just came to support was too fast, so that the distance between them and Lu Ya was too close at this time. It is also a pity that Lu Ya is not a simple physical cultivator. So, in the horrified eyes of the monks of Yanzhao League, Lu Ya tapped his hands continuously, and a series of life-destroying finger forces shot out, piercing through the space and attacking them. Each finger of killing will definitely take away a monk from the Yanzhao League. In just a few breaths, more than 30 monks from the Yanzhao League who were chasing them were all dead. The corpses fell like rain, falling into the dense forest and ice fog below the Bikyang Ridge. After doing all this, Lu Ya flashed back to the flying boat. At this time, Lin Kaoshan was already in a daze as he looked at the rain of corpses falling not far away. The giant-level helmsman died, and all the elite monks under his command also died. All of this happened in a short period of time, which made him, a monk in the middle stage of foundation building, a little overloaded and difficult to digest for a while. Show the way, Lu Ya stood in front of him and said. His tone was so calm, as if the person who had just started the killing was not him, but a young man who had just returned from a walk. Upon hearing this, Lin Kaoshan immediately jumped up from the ground, slightly identified the direction, and then pointed in a direction and said, "Senior, this way." Lu Ya looked at the direction he pointed to, and the next moment, the flying boat slightly adjusted its direction and moved at full speed in the direction pointed out. Dear all, remember to vote. Chapter 279, Temporary Living in the Desert. After crossing the Bikyang Ridge and passing the gate of the plateau, you will officially step into the land of Dongshan Domain. Lu Ya sat cross-legged on the top of the flying boat. All he could see was desert, as if the existence of the Bikyang Ridge was like a dividing line that completely separated the two domains. Standing under the sky, behind him was the fertile land covered with green grass, and in front of him was the dead and boundless desert. The sky and the earth were forcibly separated here, and the distance between life and death was so close, and the contrast was so strong. The traces of the human race were infinitely weakened in this desert. Stepping into it was like jumping out of the world. The dead and vast desert, the endless sky, being in it, a sense of loneliness emerged from Lu Ya's heart without warning. Lu Ya's mind moved slightly, and the loneliness that arose was driven out of his mind. He murmured to himself, "Is this the Dongshan Domain?" But no one could respond to his muttering. "Li!" A penetrating eagle cry sounded from high in the sky. Lu Ya looked up and saw a black dot appear under the sky, like a spot of ink on a piece of blue canvas, extremely conspicuous. The black dot gradually enlarged, and finally appeared in Lu Ya's eyes. It was a sky-sweeping eagle with a wingspan of more than 10 feet. Lu Ya waved to Xiao Kang, and the sky-sweeping eagle, which was soaring in the sky, suddenly changed direction and swooped down towards Lu Ya's position. Landing on the deck, Xiao Kang used his eagle beak to comb his somewhat messy wings, and then flapped his wings twice with unsatisfied intention, and let out 2 cries. Lu Ya smiled slightly, took out a pill from the storage ring and put it into Xiao Kang's mouth, and said, "You will fly in the future. Have you found anything?" As a demon beast that is in tune with Lu Ya, the sky-sweeping eagle, which has now broken through the 2nd level, can understand Lu Ya's meaning very well. In response to Lu Ya's question, it flapped its wings twice and cried twice again. After listening to this, Lu Ya nodded calmly. The speed of the sky-snatching eagle is much faster than that of the flying boat. He just released the sky-snatching eagle to explore the road ahead. The result is that at least the 3-day journey ahead is all this kind of desert area, which is uninhabited, which is enough to show the vastness of this desert. However, this is also a good thing, at least no one will disturb them. Lu Feng and Lu Hao are still in the process of building their foundations. If they build their foundations in this uninhabited desert, it would be the safest. With this thought, Lu Ya sent a voice message to Lu Dingbo, who was sitting in the last flying boat, to explain this matter. Soon, Lu Dingbo agreed to Lu Ya's proposal. Lu Ya looked at the sky-snatching eagle and ejected another pill. His mind wavered and the sky-snatching eagle flapped its wings again. One day later, the 3 flying boats of the Lu family slowly stopped in a small oasis. This oasis was discovered by Xiao Kang. It is not large in area, but there is a mirror-like lake, which is embedded in the dead desert like a star in the sky. Although Xiao Kang had confirmed that there was no risk in this place, Lu Yan, Lu Dingbo and others still checked it carefully. Fortunately, the oasis was not large, so it took only a few minutes to complete the task. Lu Dingbo stood in the air and said to the others, "Let the tribesmen get off the flying boat. After a long journey, it's time to have a good rest." Upon hearing this, Lu Dingbo and Lu Tong flew to the first and last flying boats, opened the hatches, and notified the tribesmen to get off. Soon, the Lu clansmen walked out of the flying boats with a little expectation. When they saw the mirror-like lake, many of them had bright eyes. Modu had changed to his original size at this moment, rushing into the lake like a dragon, and then poking his head out of the lake after rolling several times. The Lu clansmen were accustomed to this, and even many children rushed to the lakeside and jumped into the lake without even looking. Among them, the fastest runner was Lu Zuning, a little carrot holding a fat rabbit with gray and white fur in his hand. With the cheers of the children, water splashed from the lake, and then Modu controlled the water flow to lift up the children who jumped into the lake. Many tribesmen smiled at this scene, and then began to build temporary residences around the lake. Time flies, and the Lu family has stayed in the desert oasis for more than a month. The life without danger and abundant resources makes every tribe member's face full of smiles. Lu Yer still sits cross-legged on the top of the flying boat, constantly practicing his various spells. After more than a month of practice, his experience in various spells has increased a lot, and the most outstanding one is the foundation-building chapter of Chongchun that he is currently practicing, Kung Fu, Foundation Building Chongchun Peak. 48809/50000. Only a little more than 1,000 experience points are left, and this martial art will be practiced to the peak limit by Lu Yang. Looking at this martial art that is about to reach its limit, Lu Yang has a strong feeling in his heart that when Chongchun reaches its peak limit, there will definitely be a drastic change. I just don't know what this change will be like. But it should be good. Lu Yang's mind moved slightly, and 2 palms emitting spiritual light stretched out from in front of him. Under Lu Yang's control, he began to cast spells with some awkwardness. After more than 10 breaths, a cone of ice formed in front of Lu Yang and shot towards the void in front. Although the casting speed was many times slower, Lu Yang was excited. Not long ago, his Yiki catching method broke through 200,000 experience points, so he could condense 2 spiritual palms. During this period, in addition to his daily practice, he practiced a coordinated control of the 2 spiritual palms whenever he had time. Today, he has initially adapted to the feeling of controlling 2 extra arms. I believe that with his practice, he will eventually be able to perfectly control the extra 2 palms and participate in fighting with others. One day, the 3-headed and 6-armed supernatural power will be born in my hands. Lu Yang's heart was full of pride. This feeling of turning myths and legends into reality step by step from nothing is irresistible. Suddenly, Lu Yang looked at the flying boat in the middle, with a flash of expectation in his eyes. Looking at this breath, it should be Lu Hao. Lu Dingbo's figure appeared beside Lu Yang, looking at the breath rising from the flying boat, and said excitedly. Lu Hao used the true Yang fruit to build his foundation underground. Once the foundation is successfully built, his combat power will instantly surpass all cultivators except Lu Yang, and become the second most powerful existence in the entire Lu family. And if Lu Hao absorbs the true Yang fruit and gives birth to treasure body, then his combat power will be further improved on this basis. Lu Dinghe, Lu Tong and others also appeared on the top of the flying boat, all looking expectantly at the position where Lu Hao was. Before everyone had to wait too long, a huge and hot breath suddenly rose in the flying boat, which lasted for about a quarter of an hour, and then returned to calm again. Chapter 280, 3 flowers gathering at the top, the chance to form the pill. Everyone waited for a while, and then saw the door of the flying boat opened, and a red rainbow flew out from the cabin and appeared in front of everyone. It was Lu Hao. At this time, Lu Hao's burly body was like a volcano, emitting a hot red light visible to the naked eye, with flying black hair and an unconcealable smile on his young face. Patriarch, third grandpa, third grandma, third uncle, second brother, Lu Hao restrained the fiery magic power in his body, and then bowed to Lu Ya and others. Ha ha ha, my Lu family has added another foundation building person. Lu Hao, how does it feel to build a foundation? Lu Dingbo laughed and asked. Hearing this, Lu Hao also chuckled and said, very good. I have also created a treasure body called the True Yang treasure body. When practicing fire-based techniques or spells, the speed will be 30% faster, and the power of fire-based techniques will also increase by 30% in my hands. In addition, my physique has also gained a lot of benefits. When practicing body refining techniques, there will be a certain bonus, and the practice speed will be faster. After saying this, Lu Hao himself couldn't help laughing. Except for Lu Yang, the few people present all looked envious and shocked. They were all ordinary human foundation building. Although they had heard of the underground foundation building, because there was no possibility of underground foundation building, they had never really understood the difference between underground foundation building and human foundation building. Now that they've just understood it, they found that the gap is so big. Is this the underground foundation building? From now on, it can be said that the cart leaps over the dragon gate and soars into the sky. Lu Dinghe was amazed. Lu Yang also nodded. Lu Hao finally maximized the effectiveness of the True Yang fruit without any waste. Yes, Lu Hao, you have just established your foundation. It is not suitable for you to stay in the outside world for a long time. Go to the flying boat for a few days to consolidate your cultivation, okay? Second brother, Lu Hao nodded vigorously, and then rushed into another flying boat without stopping, and began to retreat to consolidate his cultivation. A week after Lu Hao broke through the foundation, Lu Feng also successfully broke through the foundation, but compared with the movement when Lu Hao broke through the foundation, Lu Feng's was much smaller. There was no strange phenomenon, and he walked out of the flying boat calmly, but Lu Feng's breath was condensed and heavy, which was already the most stable state. This is also the characteristic of the older generation of practitioners. After decades of polishing, their cultivation will not be unstable at all. As long as they break through, they will be in the best state. In just 1 week, the Lu family has added 2 foundation builders, which makes the Lu family excited and full of energy for cultivation. Another dozen days passed. On this night, Lu Ya sat cross-legged in the room, his eyes closed, and his magic power was running rapidly. After more than 20 days, under Lu Ya's intentional control, his experience in the technique was almost full. Tonight, it was time for the foundation building chapter of Chongchun Gong to reach its peak limit. As the mana in his body circulated again and again, the experience in the foundation building chapter of Chongchun Gong was also increasing bit by bit. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Yang only heard a crisp pop sound, and he felt as if a layer of barrier in his body was broken. The mana that was originally running wildly suddenly turned into a drizzle, flowing out of the meridians uncontrollably, gradually covering every part of his body, even the hair. The spiritual energy was like water, nourishing every inch of his flesh, blood, bones and even cells. Lu Ya's physical strength began to slowly increase in this process. At the same time, his soul was also affected, and slowly grew stronger in this process. At first glance, Lu Ya was shrouded in spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy dissipated. Few scattered light spots flickered around him. A kind of pressure that seemed to be there and not there enveloped the room, making Lu Ya look like a true immortal sitting alone in the world. 1 day. 2 days. 1 week. In the blink of an eye, another half-month passed. Until one morning, when the first ray of sunlight passed over the horizon of the desert, Lu Ya finally opened his eyes that had been closed for a long time. The moment he opened his eyes, his magic power became uncontrollably agitated and escaped from all the pores of his body. During this process, Lu Ya's Danshan Kahei, the Zigun acute point on his chest, and the Niwen palace on his head all lit up, and the light became stronger and stronger, and finally gathered into jade flowers, golden flowers, and 9 flowers respectively. As soon as the 3 flowers appeared, Lu Ya's aura suddenly rose, and the jade flowers at the Danshan Kahei and the golden flowers at the Zigun on his chest began to rise slowly, and finally fell at the Niwen palace on Lu Ya's head, merging with the 9 flowers of the gods. Lu Yu felt his own state and the three-color lotus above his head that seemed real and unreal, and the sentences in a Taoist book that he had casually read in his previous life emerged from the depths of his mind. He murmured to himself, essence turns into ki turns into spirit turns into emptiness, the true yang of essence, ki, and spirit turns into one, and reaches one place, so it is called three flowers gather at the top of the head. Yes, his current state is so similar to the three flowers gathering at the top of the head mentioned in Taoist scriptures. If he could do this in his previous life, he could be called an immortal. If he could make the five ki return to the origin, then he would be a true immortal. After the three-color lotus appeared, it sank into the Nuan palace on the top of Lu Ya's head in a very short time and soon disappeared. Lu Ya's eyes were blank for a while. He visualized himself and found that the three-color lotus that sank into the Nuan palace on the top of the head of the soul body in his mind appeared there at some point. In the center of the lotus pot of the three-color lotus, the true fire of the sun stood in it and burned slowly. What is this? Lu Yu couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. He could feel that with the appearance of the three-colored lotus, his soul body had an unprecedented sense of stability, as if with the three-colored lotus, his soul would not be harmed in any way. Just as Lu Yu was about to get up, he suddenly felt a strong throbbing in his heart, followed by a glimmer of enlightenment. The opportunity to form a golden elixir had arrived. Lu Yu's mind moved, and then he quickly sent a message to Lu Dinghe, who was guarding outside the room, saying that he was about to break through the golden elixir. Then, without waiting for Lu Dinghe to respond, he quickly set up a protective array and sat cross-legged in the center of the array. After sitting cross-legged, Lu Ya suddenly didn't feel so nervous and anxious. He took out several jade bottles from the storage ring and placed them within reach. He also took out the 3 customized diamond pills and pulled out the corks. In the jade bottle, a golden red pill lay quietly at the bottom of the bottle, exuding a strong medicinal fragrance. Lu Ya poured the diamond pill into his palm and let it roll continuously. Then he raised his head and swallowed it without any hesitation. I have come to this world and practiced for more than a few years. Now the golden elixir road is within reach. Success or failure depends on me. I can't afford to make any mistakes. Lu Ya felt a sense of pride in his heart, and then closed his eyes and practiced the skills. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 281 Dan Formation. Key Training, Foundation Building, and Golden Elixir. For 95% of the cultivators in the cultivation world, being able to touch the realm of golden elixir in their lifetime is considered a successful practice, and they have become the best of the best. Key training is the beginning of cultivation. It absorbs the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, transforms it into one's own magic power, cleanses the mortal body, and finally liquefies the magic power to build one's own foundation for cultivation, becoming a foundation-building cultivator. After becoming a foundation-building cultivator, one can live for more than 200 years, which is already incomparable to ordinary people. From foundation building to golden elixir, it is a real qualitative leap. That is to compress one's magic power, and through continuous compression, condense the liquefied magic power into one place, and finally condense it into human elixir. In this process, the flesh is used as a tool, the magic power is used as firewood, and the spiritual consciousness is used as a hammer to forge the cultivator's own human elixir. Once the golden elixir is completed, the essence of the cultivator will completely leap forward, and the level of life will be different from then on. But people are different. According to the accumulation of the cultivator's own foundation and the ability to bear the pain when forming the elixir, the levels of the golden elixir are strictly divided, from the most basic white elixir, to the yellow elixir formed by the authentic foundation cultivators, and the purple gold elixir. If Lu Yu is not a heavenly foundation, but an authentic foundation like most cultivators, then the golden elixir he formed at this moment is most likely to be a yellow elixir, or even a white elixir, which is almost the path that all cultivators have to take. Of course, this is not absolute. There was once a perverted cultivator in the world of cultivation who built his foundation with a human way, but finally forged a purple gold elixir. But Lu Ya is different here. He is a heavenly foundation. For him, if he does not pursue the extreme, the yellow elixir is easy for him, and there is a greater possibility of forging a purple gold elixir of the highest grade. After the diamond pill entered his stomach, it was like a piece of charcoal. As the medicinal power melted, Lu Ya only felt that his entire stomach was burning, and the blazing heat wave spread continuously from his stomach. In just a moment, the heat wave rushed straight to his limbs and bones. The thick mana that was originally running freely became violent at this moment, which accelerated the flow of blood all over his body, and his skin became red. Then a piercing pain surged from all parts of Liu Ya's body. Along with this pain, Liu Ya could clearly feel that his body had undergone subtle changes. This change was like a machine that had been prepared and could run wildly at the command. Seeing this, the spiritual consciousness of the three flowers on Liu Ya's head in his sea of consciousness permeated his whole body, making every change in his body under his control. Boom! The medicinal power surged like a raging sea, hitting every inch of Liu Ya's bones and flesh from the inside out, and then was forcibly pressed back into the danshan by Liu Ya. During this process, the pain that penetrated into the bone marrow tore Liu Ya's nerves, making his face a little hideous. Concentrate, in the danshan key C. The mana that was bombarded from all parts of his body appeared in the danshan. With the force of the recoil, Liu Ya's consciousness turned into a pair of invisible big hands and squeezed hard. In the vast and boundless danshan, the ocean-like mana suddenly shrank. Just with its grip, the entire ocean-like mana shrank a circle in an instant. As the mana compressed, the huge repulsive force born from the mana mixed with the medicinal power once again bombarded out of Liu Ya's danshan. Boom! There seemed to be a loud sound like a drum in Liu Ya's body. Under this loud sound, Liu Ya's body trembled twice, and the surrounding air was shaken. Liu Ya's eyes were red, and thick blue veins swelled on his forehead. His consciousness once again squeezed down towards the center of the Ki Si danshan. Boom! The fierce power of the consciousness descended on the ocean of mana, compressing the entire ocean of mana again. After this, it seemed as if the prelude to dam formation had been opened. The third, fourth, and fifth loud noises came out from Liu Ya's body one after another, and Liu Ya also used all his strength to compress the mana in danshan again and again. After another loud noise, blood flowed from the corners of Liu Ya's mouth, and his whole body exuded a terrifying aura. This aura was full of violence, and it seemed that it might collapse and explode at any time. Once it exploded, Liu Ya would not only fail to successfully form a den, but would even be torn apart by this backlash, and his body and consciousness would be destroyed under this terrifying force. Inhale. Liu Ya endured the severe pain and took a deep breath of slightly hot air. The air entered his lungs and relieved him from the pain. The consciousness that permeated the danshan Ki Si wrapped around the center, which was a group of mana about 100 feet in size. The already thick mana gradually began to change in this constant compression, collision and friction, and even some tiny shining crystal fragments could be seen in it. At this point, Liu Ya already knew that his mana was too huge, and he could not go any further by simply relying on his spiritual sense to compress it. So he moved his mind, and the refined spiritual sense pushed the mana to start rotating. Soon, a huge vortex was formed. The vortex rotated at a high speed, pushing the mana in Liu Ya's body to undergo a qualitative change. At the same time, Liu Ya continued to use his spiritual sense to compress the mana vortex, ignoring the mana repulsion formed after each compression. His eyes were red, and he maintained the changes in the danshan Ki Si. 90 feet, 80 feet, 70 feet, 5 feet. The mana ocean was only 5 feet in size at this moment, like a white ball of light, shaking in the void. At this moment, Liu Ya's 7 orifices were bleeding, and his solid body had several tiny cracks. His whole body was shaking, and it seemed that he was not far from collapse. At this moment, a huge amount of medicinal power emerged from his body and was quickly absorbed by Liu Ya, making his injuries instantly much better, and even the cracks on his body's surface disappeared. The effect of the customized Vajra pill was finally reflected. Why is there no movement? Lu Dinghe looked at the flying boat where Liu Ya was nervously and asked anxiously. Just now, the roars that were stronger than the last suddenly disappeared, which made all the Lu clan members waiting outside the flying boat anxious. Don't lose your composure. Liu Ya can cause such a terrifying spiritual energy phenomenon, which is enough to show that his foundation is far beyond our imagination. What we need to do now is to ensure that Liu Ya's dam formation is not disturbed, Lu Dingbo said with a serious look, but very rationally. At the same time, Lu Dingbo was also somewhat fortunate that Liu Ya was forming a den in this dead desert. Otherwise, with Liu Ya's terrifying phenomenon covering a radius of several miles, I don't know how many malicious eyes he would attract. Before Lu Dingbo finished speaking, although the Lu clan members were very worried about Liu Ya, they still automatically dispersed around the flying boat and began to be on guard. Time passed by minute, and there was finally movement inside the flying boat. Chapter 282, Swallow a Golden Pill. The terrifying spiritual energy vortex covering a radius of several miles began to spin wildly in an instant. The huge spiritual energy vortex pulled all the spiritual energy within a radius of dozens of miles and poured it down to the center of the spiritual energy vortex. In this center, Liu Ya was exactly where he was. Inside the flying boat, Liu Ya's face was hideous, and his clenched gums were full of blood. The speed of the mana vortex in his body was getting faster and faster, and the violent recoil was continuously impacting all parts of his body. Concentrate, Liu Ya let out a roar, and everything in his body was completely detonated. The peak Chong Chun Gong was running wildly, and the refined and condensed consciousness kept pushing the acceleration of the mana vortex. His muscles were tightly twisted together, locking the body that was about to be blown up. Boom! The mana vortex in his body spun and compressed wildly, and a spherical light yellow mana crystal quietly gathered in the center of the vortex. At the moment when the pale yellow sphere of mana condensed, an even more terrifying suction force suddenly erupted from the center of the vortex, as if madly absorbing the mana in the vortex that was already sticky and paste-like like a whale swallowing cows. This is a sign of the initial condensation of the golden elixir, which means that Liu Ya has already stepped half a foot into the realm of the golden elixir. However, the next step is the most critical moment of forming the elixir. The initial condensation of the golden elixir requires extremely terrifying mana to fill and stabilize it. During this process, the golden elixir will become more and more condensed, and at the same time the color will become darker and darker. Liu Ya did not dare to be distracted at all, and controlled the mana vortex to madly converge towards the golden elixir in the center. With the influx of strong mana, the newly condensed golden elixir was filled up at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the color gradually deepened from the initial pale yellow. Fortunately, the more difficult the process of condensing mana was before, the more generous the reward was at this moment. Under the support of Liu Ya's huge mana, the golden elixir at the bottom of the vortex became more and more round and full, and it no longer had the illusion that it had just condensed. The surface even revealed a layer of bright golden color, and this golden color was still deepening. Ka-ka-ka-ka, a series of sounds came from the mana vortex. Liu Ya found that at this moment, his remaining mana had begun to develop in the direction of crystallization. At this absorption rate, it would be completely crystallized before it was absorbed by the golden elixir and could no longer be filled into the golden elixir. Liu Ya glanced at the golden elixir inside his Danshan with dissatisfaction in his eyes. Whether it was his physical body, mana, consciousness, or even his skills, he had already reached the extreme of the foundation building realm. How could he, who was so extreme, stop at the mere yellow elixir? Liu Ya was ruthless in his heart, and his consciousness once again urged the mana vortex, causing the speed of the mana vortex to rise to a higher level. The price of doing so was that Liu Ya was hit by severe pain all over his body. It felt like someone was holding a small hammer, smashing all his bones bit by bit, and then grinding them into powder. The pain rushed straight into the depths of his mind, making Liu Ya's thoughts seem to stagnate. Blood-red sweat beads as big as beans flowed down his body, and the sound of tearing silk came from his body. Scarlet wounds appeared all over his body. Day after day of practice, year after year of hard work, this is definitely not the end of me, Liu Ya. Once a golden elixir is swallowed into my stomach, my life is in my own hands, not in the hands of God. Keep condensing it, Liu Ya roared and pushed the vortex of mana desperately. The huge mana rushed into the golden elixir at the bottom violently like a dragon sucking water. Boom boom boom. The sound like muffled thunder continued, as if one heavy hammer after another, smashing Liu Ya's body with blood, and also smashing the hearts of the Liu family outside the flying boat. Is this really an elixir? Liu Ha muttered to himself, his eyes filled with shock and worry. Did it succeed? Someone asked in a trembling voice. Everyone remained silent about this question. No one knew whether Liu Ya succeeded or failed. In their limited knowledge, they had never seen a cultivator forming a pill, let alone a cultivator forming a purple gold pill. At this moment, all they could do was wait. After an unknown amount of time, the vortex vision began to slowly dissipate. As the vision dissipated, the oppressive atmosphere that made it hard to breathe gradually disappeared. Everyone understood that this time, the formation of the pill seemed to have really come to an end. There were murmurs of prayers in the heavy intense breathing, and their eyes were filled with endless thoughts as they cast their gazes at the flying boat. All the Liu family members stopped where they were and did not move. They were waiting for Liu Ya to come out of the cabin intact. Inside the flying boat, everything had calmed down, except for Liu Ya, who was sitting cross-legged like a blood crystal statue. He sat cross-legged there, his whole body covered with dried blood, but even so, there were still strands of purple gold light seeping out of his body, and the whole person exuded a majestic and mysterious aura. At this moment, all of a sudden, Lu Ye's eyes suddenly opened. At the moment his eyes opened and closed, a purple gold lightning flashed through his pupils, and a roar sounded from the bottom of his heart. Then, waves of terrifying cultivation fluctuations spread from Lu Ye's body to the surroundings without reservation. That kind of pressure, that kind of fluctuation, far exceeded the limit that could be achieved by building a foundation. That was the power of the golden elixir. The fluctuations spread in all directions, and when they touched the blood scabs on Lu Ye's body, the blood scabs were washed away in an instant, without any trace left. Lu Ye's eyes were a little throbbing, and he carefully felt a huge and slowly rotating purple gold elixir in his body that was like an ancient star. He felt his body, which had completely recovered, and his physical strength was even greater than before. It seemed that he could collapse mountains and crack the earth with a punch. Everything made him a little dazed. Is this the limit of the golden elixir? The purple golden elixir, Lu Ye muttered to himself. He could feel that part of his mind was placed in the purple golden elixir, like a small seed, slowly nurturing in the golden elixir. Every time the purple golden elixir rotated in his body, it would burst out with mana far beyond the foundation building period. The mana with a touch of purple gold color spread throughout his body, making his body seem to have undergone a huge change. This change was not only an increase in lifespan, but also a profound change in the level of life. In this change, Lu Ye even felt that in his eyes, this world was different at this moment. At this moment, the whole world in his eyes seemed to have unveiled a mysterious veil, presenting an unprecedented reality. He could see the floating and rolling aura in the air, the various lusters flickering on the sky, and more things that he could not understand at present. Finally, Lu Ye set his eyes on his skill panel, lifespan. 26/899 years. Ho ha ho ho! A hearty laugh came out of Lu Ye's mouth and reached the ears of everyone outside the flying boat. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 283, Status, 3 flowers gathering at the top. It's done. After hearing the loud laughter coming from the inside of the flying boat, Lu Dingbo was struck by lightning and froze in place, not knowing what to do. Our Lu family has produced a giant Henrun. Such a thought flashed through his mind like lightning, making his whole body tremble uncontrollably. Brother, did Lu Yu succeed? Lu Dinghei's face flushed with excitement, and he kept repeating it in his mouth as he looked at Lu Dingbo. Although Lu Dingbo guessed that Lu Ye had successfully formed a pill, he dared not guarantee it without Lu Ye's personal confirmation. Just when everyone was nervous and excited, Lu Ye's voice rang out from the flying boat. I have formed a pill, don't worry. The voice was not loud, but it was clearly heard by everyone, making everyone quiet down, and then burst into earth-shaking cheers. After hearing the cheers from the clansmen outside, Lu Ye's mouth also had a smile on his face, and he closed his eyes again to experience the various differences after forming a pill. Name, Lu Ye. Lifespan, 26/899 years old. Realm, early stage of golden elixir. 1/200, Kung Fu. Foundation establishment of Chongchun Kung Fu Peak. 50000, 50000. Skills, perfect fire controlling technique, perfect golden sword key, perfect wind controlling technique, perfect water controlling technique, perfect palm thunder, peak of shocking wind curse. 50000/50000, peak of rainbow transformation technique. 50000/50000, peak of swift wind escape technique. 5482, 5000000, peak of clear spirit technique. 4,088,750,000, peak of bewitching soul technique. 28965, 50000, peak of one key capturing technique. 215845, 5000000, peak of earth controlling technique. 165849/200000, peak of red sun immortal body. 17854, 50000, Zuanian spirit shield peak. 50000, 50000, blood river giant body peak. 1107, 50,000, refining technique level 2. 420/5000, magic powers, sun true fire, life extinguishing finger, Guangmo wind, calling wind and rain, 1 yuan weak water, 9 heavens thunder method, Magic PowerPoints. 0. Status, 3 flowers gathered at the top of the head. Lu Ye looked at his skill panel, thinking. He had broken through the golden core, and his lifespan had increased from the original 270 to the current 899, just a little short of reaching 900 years of life. Lu Ye also had a guess about this. When he was practicing magic, he was deducted 1 year of life, which was reflected here. If there was no 1 year of life deducted, then Lu Ye's deadline at this moment should be exactly 900 years. 900 years, it's such a long time that it's scary. Even Peng Zhu only lived for 800 years, Lu Ye sighed. He had lived for only 30 years in his 2 lives. What he had experienced in 30 years was too short to be in a time that was endless like 900 years. However, Lu Ye smiled. Who would dislike a long life? Perhaps after hundreds of years of ups and downs, Lu Ye would feel bored with this endless life and even want to commit suicide. But at this stage, Lu Ye would never have any objection. His life has just begun, and there are still too many mysterious and interesting scenes in this world waiting for him to see. After looking back and forth for more than 10 times in the life column, Lu Ye shifted his gaze and looked at the realm below the life. In the realm, only one giant and early stage was displayed. Unlike the clear division of each stage of foundation building and key training, the giant realm is only divided into 3 small realms: early stage, middle stage, and late stage. The division between key training and foundation building is very clear. That is because it is the beginning of cultivation, and one must be careful and cautious. Therefore, there are predecessors who divide the realms in detail for the reference of future generations. After the cultivators have formed the elixir, they have grown from children to adults. Naturally, they no longer need such subdivided realms to assist in cultivation. Therefore, they can be summarized as the initial stage. However, from the initial stage of the golden elixir to the middle stage of the golden elixir, the experience required has also increased a lot, a full 200 points. In addition, a new column has appeared at the bottom of the skill panel: status, 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head. Looking at this 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head state, Lu Ye was a little curious. After his Chongchun Gong reached the peak limit, he successfully condensed his spirit and condensed the 3 flowers on the top of the head, and he obtained such a state. However, because the formation of the elixir was imminent at that time, he did not have time to carefully explore the wonderful use of the 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head. Lu Ye closed his eyes, his consciousness sank into his mind. Looking at the 3-colored lotus on the top of his soul, Lu Ye's consciousness slowly approached. After coming into contact with the 3-colored lotus, a piece of subtle and profound information flowed into Lu Ye's consciousness like a clear spring in a mountain stream, allowing him to roughly understand the general function of this 3-colored lotus. 3 flowers gather at the top of the head, gather ki and condense the soul. When the 3 flowers on Lu Ye's head last forever, Lu Ye's soul body will gain a layer of soul protection, and under the nourishment of the 3 flowers, Lu Ye's soul body will slowly grow stronger. In addition, his mana recovery speed has been greatly enhanced. When the 3 flowers exist, as long as Lu Ye needs it, he can attract a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy for his own use through the 3 flowers on the top of the head at any time. However, this use has a considerable burden on Lu Ye's physical meridians, that is to say, there is a certain time limit. If he wants to get rid of this limitation and reach the point where the mana is self-generated, Lu Ye also has a faint guess in his heart. That is to condense another state. That state is 5 ki to the origin. But even so, Lu Ye is already satisfied. After reaching the state of the 3 flowers gathering at the top of the head, not only does the soul have an extra layer of extremely strong protection, but when fighting with others, it can also temporarily achieve unlimited mana. This is very important in a fight. At that time, his opponent needs to reasonably allocate mana consumption, while Lu Ye can use it unscrupulously. The difference is immeasurable. 5 kis converge to the origin, Lu Ye muttered to himself. Lu Ye also knew about the 5 kis converge to the origin in his previous life. Originally, he could not remember it in the depths of his memory, but under the powerful soul now, the books he had read before emerged in Lu Ye's mind bit by bit. The 5 ki correspond to the 5 internal organs and the 5 elements. The heart stores the spirit, which is the fire ki of the Red Emperor in the south. The liver stores the soul, which is the wood ki of the Green Emperor in the east. The spleen stores the mind, which is the earth ki of the Yellow Emperor in the center. The lungs store the soul, which is the gold key of the White Empire in the west. The kidneys store the essence, which is the water key of the Black Empire in the north. The 5 key correspond to the 5 internal organs of the heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys. Jiao Yuan means that the 5 key converge to the upper yuan and gather at the top. This is 5 keys converge to the origin. However, these can only be used as a reference for Lu Yao. There is no clear way to achieve it. However, what Lu Yao can be clear about is that tempering the 5 internal organs is a necessary step. Perhaps after the 5 internal organs are tempered, there may be a certain correlation with the 4 basic spells, Lu Yao muttered to himself with some uncertainty. Everyone, remember to vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Planning the Way Forward. Although he was not sure, Lu Yao was ready to develop in this direction. Of course, this was nothing. After all, he had been on the path of body refining, and now he was just slightly more focused. With this thought, Lu Yao rubbed his fingers unconsciously, then took out a jade slip and began to plan his future practice. Before forming the elixir, he always had a sense of urgency, which forced him to keep moving forward and constantly improve his cultivation. But now, he has successfully formed the top-level purple gold elixir, and his lifespan is nearly 900 years. At the same time, he has also jumped out of the chaotic fence of Yang Kaiyu. Now, he has enough time to plan his future practice. The first is to improve his future cultivation. Now the foundation building chapter of Chongchun Gong has reached the peak limit. As the most basic practice, Chongchun Gong has reached the end of the foundation building chapter, and the next step is to switch to other high-level practices. Due to the peaceful nature of Chongchun Gong, there is no obstacle when switching practices, which is why it can become the most basic practice in the world of cultivation. Therefore, for Lu Yao, the next step, apart from changing to higher grade technique, was to break through the Chongchun Gong to the transformation realm. However, compared to changing the technique, Lu Yao always felt that breaking through the Chongchun Gong foundation building chapter to the transformation realm would be a better choice. After Lu Yao's continuous practice, the Chongchun Gong now fits his body perfectly. Moreover, Lu Yao also tried it a little. Although there were no other high-level techniques for comparison, he felt that the speed of practicing the Chongchun Gong, which reached the peak limit, did not slow down. Lu Yao recorded it in the jade slip. Chongchun Gong breaks through the transformation realm, and a little magical PowerPoint is needed. Above this record, there are many similar records. Zuanun Lingdan breaks through the transformation realm, and a little magical PowerPoint is needed. Blood River Giant Body Technique breaks through the transformation realm. Red Sun Indestructible Body breaks through Lighting Technique breaks through. There are dozens of them. Lu Yao looked at these records of spells waiting to break through the transformation realm and thought about it for a moment. Then he placed the Blood River Giant Body Technique and the Chongchun skill side by side in the first row, the Red Sun Immortal Body and the Zuanun Spirit Shield in the second row, and the other spells in the lower row. This arrangement means that if a magical PowerPoint is born, the 2 spells in the first row will be the spells with the highest priority, followed by the second row, and then the spells in the lower row. After rearranging the spell priorities, Lu Yao began to think again. Now, he already has 6 magical powers plus a state, which is enough for him at present. In addition, the subsequent Swift Wind Escape, which represents speed, is also constantly accumulating experience. When the experience is full, another speed-related magical power will be born. Therefore, the focus of future practice can be placed on the magical powers that Lu Yao guessed in his mind, such as the Law of Heaven and Earth, 3 heads and 6 arms, and the star-picking hand. At present, due to the progress of body training, the Law of Heaven and Earth has made considerable progress. Because of the existence of the Yiki capture method, the 3 heads and 6 arms divine power is also gradually developing. Perhaps when the Yiki capture method successfully reaches the limit of the transformation realm, he will be able to condense and control 4 spiritual palms. Regardless of whether it is the Law of Heaven and Earth or the 3 heads and 6 arms, they can essentially be regarded as the category of physical divine power, so there is a certain correlation between the two. Relatively speaking, the magical power of the star-picking hand tends to be a spell and spiritual type, which even involves the concept of space. For Lu Yao now, he has never touched space, even though he has now reached the golden core realm. Therefore, he adjusted the priority of the star-picking hand down and put the priority of the law of heaven and earth to the first place. When the Blood River Giant Body Technique and the Red Sun Immortal Body Transformation Realm are perfect, it is time for him to use the magical power points to transform all the accumulated body refining foundation into the understanding of the Taoist magical power, and finally successfully give birth to the magical power he wants. This process may be very long, but Liu Yang, looking at his longer life, said that there is no problem at all. Afterwards, Liu Yang looked at the few terms at the bottom of the priority list, feeling somewhat helpless. Among them were Fixed Body Technique, the Universe in the Sleeve, 5-Color Divine Light, and so on. These were all the magical powers that Liu Yang had guessed in his mind, and there were also directions for practice, but due to the lack of magical power points, they could only be suppressed at the bottom and not see the light of day. After sorting out the direction of his own practice, Liu Yang's mind became much clearer. Then, he took out the entire southwest region map and looked at it carefully. They are now at the junction of the two regions. According to the clan leader Lu Dingbo, the location of their Lu family's main vein is not too far from here, and it can be reached in about half a month of flying by flying boat. Next, they are going to the land of the Lu family's main vein. After the visit, they will set off again and go to Chenhuaiyu. There, Liu Yang also has a commission from Jiuduan Taoist to bring back to Chenhuaiyu Zhang's. It is unknown whether Chenhuaiyu Zhang's is still in Chenhuaiyu or not. After all, thousands of years have passed since the time when Jiuduan Taoist lived. Over the past 1,000 years, the world has changed dramatically. It is not enough to summarize it with the phrase things have changed and people have changed. Be loyal to the trust of others, regardless of whether Zhang's family still exists. Liu Yu must go on this trip. If it still exists, he will pass on the inheritance of Jiuduan Taoist to his descendants. If it no longer exists, then he has fulfilled his promise and ended this cause and effect. Finally, Liu Yang looked at the direction of Songgu Domain. Next to Songgu Domain is Wulian Heia, one of the 5 major immortal gates in the central domain. This is also the final destination of Lu's migration. When we arrive in Songgu Domain, we will choose a livable land to settle down and develop our family and ourselves. Liu Yang smiled slightly. By that time, no one should come to disturb him. After making the plan, Liu Yang put the jade slip back into the stored ring. Then he practiced the skills and began to consolidate his own cultivation. It was not until half a month later that the tightly closed door of the flying boat finally opened and Liu Yang slowly walked out of it. Compared to when he just broke through, he couldn't control his own breath, which caused purple gold light to shoot out from his body from time to time. Now Liu Yang's breath is restrained, like a deep pool, and there are no waves. At first glance, he seems to be immortal without any cultivation. Liu Yang came out of retreat, and was naturally discovered by the Lu family who had been paying attention to this place. I saw several rainbow lights of different colors rushing quickly, and finally stopped in front of Liu Yang. The rainbow light dissipated, revealing the excited faces of several people. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 285 Continue the journey. After seeing Liu Yang, Lu Dingbo couldn't help but smile and said, "Ha, my Lu family finally has a giant Tenrun. It's really the biggest happy event for my Lu family in the past 200 years. Among them, everyone in the Lu family also smiled and looked at Liu Yang with joy in their eyes. After their ancestor came to Yankee Domain, he worked hard alone to establish a family, but until his death, he never touched the threshold of giantdom. After that, the Lu family has been going downhill, and even had to sell the things left by the ancestors to maintain the family's livelihood. But their Lu family has produced a real demon clan member, who not only led their Lu family out of hardship, but also made great progress all the way. Now he has entered the giantdom realm at the age of less than 30. It's like a dream." Liu Yu looked around the entire temporary residence, and under the giantdom consciousness, everything appeared in his mind. "Fifth sister, my second brother has formed a golden elixir." Wu's stomach hurt. Little Radish held the fat rabbit, frowning, with a worried look on his face. Lu Jing, who was standing next to Little Radish Lu Zuning, heard this, and a trace of doubt flashed across her cold face. Why did 13th sister say that she would have a stomach ache? Forming a golden elixir is a good thing, but Little Radish sometimes has a stomach ache when he can't defecate. How can my second brother not have a stomach ache when he has formed a golden elixir in his stomach? Little Radish looked innocent. Lu Jing was speechless for a while. In the clan, enlightenment teaching usually starts at the age of 6. Little Radish, who has not yet started enlightenment learning, only has a little understanding of the realm of cultivation. However, facing Little Radish's big eyes full of curiosity, she had to say, 13th sister, a golden elixir cultivator will not have a stomachache. You will know when you have a golden elixir in the future, really? Then Little Radish will form an elixir, so that you won't have a stomach ache in the future. Little Radish seemed a little excited, picked up the fat rabbit, held it high above his head, and said happily, "Then Little Radish, you must study cultivation knowledge carefully and practice hard." After Lu Jing fooled the Little Radish, she gave him a casual encouragement. Lu Yu withdrew his consciousness, and a trace of helplessness appeared on his face. Educational enlightenment must be taken seriously. 6 years old is still too late. 5 years old is almost enough. That's right, start from 5 years old, Lu Ya secretly decided in his heart, and later proposed to change the time of enlightenment to 5 years old, so that these little guys would not know anything. Today, Lu Ya successfully formed the elixir, and my Lu family is in great revival. I will not go home until I am drunk tonight. Lu Dingbo stood beside Lu Ya, and his voice contained magic power, which reached the ears of every member of the Lu family. Suddenly, cheers rang out from all parts of the temporary residence. At night, after a very rich celebration banquet, Lu Yan, Lu Dingbo and several other foundation builders, as well as several uncles and aunts sat down in the temporary meeting hall. Seeing that everyone was present, Lu Dingbo spoke first. During this period, Lu Tong first built his foundation successfully, followed by Lu Hao and Lu Feng. Among them, Lu Hao was a genius in building his foundation. And finally Lu Ya seized the opportunity and successfully formed a golden elixir, becoming the first golden elixir cultivator of my Lu family. To be honest, all of this, for me, feels like being in a dream. After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, the rest of the people smiled, obviously having similar feelings. At present, the resources within the family are still very sufficient, so no matter who you are, you must not slack off in your cultivation, especially for cultivators like you who have practiced at the 9th level of key training and above. Lu Yuan. Now the family's cultivation environment is relatively stable. If you can complete your key training as soon as possible, you can also build your foundation as soon as possible. Lu Dingbo turned his head and looked at Lu Yuan and the others, with a lot of expectations in his words. Lu Yuan, Lu Xiao and the others immediately nodded, indicating that they knew. Seeing that several people agreed, Lu Dingbo turned to look at Lu Ya and said, "Okay, Lu Ya, tell us what the changes are like after the Jinden, so that we can have a general idea." Lu Ya nodded, but he did not speak directly. Instead, he thought for a few breaths and then said, "Patriarch, third grandpa, father, uncles, there is a saying that there is a level of heaven at each level. Before this, I did not have a deep understanding, because I can kill Jinden's Henrun. But after the Jinden, the gap is indeed extremely huge. Let alone other things, just the lifespan, I have reached more than 800 years." After Lu Ya finished speaking, everyone who listened carefully cast envious eyes. Cultivation and cultivation, every practitioner's goals are strange and varied, but the initial goal of most cultivators' cultivation must include immortality. Just from foundation building to Jinden, the gap is so huge. In addition, whether it is to break through the foundation from practicing key, or to break through the golden elixir from building the foundation, the three paths of spirit, energy and spirit must be tempered more. The better the tempering, the higher the chance of breakthrough, and the upper limit in the future will also be higher. This kind of golden elixir perception is not common. The others even subconsciously suppress their breathing to the lowest level. In the whole living room, only Lu Ya's voice continued to sound. After a long while, Lu Ya stopped. Seeing that everyone seemed to have realized something, he did not disturb them, but just waited quietly. After a long time, Lu Dinghe sighed softly, and a ray of red light burst out of his eyes. It seemed that his cultivation had improved. As Lu Dinghe sighed, the others also woke up one by one, with emotion and satisfaction in their eyes. Seeing that everyone was awake, Lu Dingbo suppressed the perception in his mind, and then continued to say, "The next step is related to the future development of the family. I must make it clear to you." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the field looked solemn and looked at Lu Dingbo. Lu Dingbo looked at Lu Ya first, then said, "Now my Lu family has a Jinden's Henren, 6 foundation building cultivators, and 2 foundation building monsters. This strength is enough to live well in this area. So I need to ask for everyone's opinions. Next, Should our Lu family follow the established route and go to the main vein of the Lu family in the east, 3 regions and then go west? Or should our Lu family find a place with abundant spiritual energy to settle down and no longer migrate? Luya, tell me your opinion first. Hearing this, Luya said, no longer migrating is also a good idea, but since we have come here, why not continue to walk? After Luya finished speaking, many people nodded. That's right, Luya is right. In terms of safety, how can this Dongshan desert be compared to the Sanggu region? When we step into the Sanggu region, it won't be too late to find a treasure land to settle down, Lu Dinghe said hurriedly. Among them, everyone nodded, and they agreed with Lu Dinghe's analysis. Seeing this, Lu Dingbo immediately made a decision. Okay, since no one has any objections, let's continue. When your cultivation is completely consolidated, we will set off. Chapter 286 The Past of Lu's Ancestors. Okay, no problem, agree. Seeing that everyone agreed, Lu Dingbo was quite satisfied. Reaching a consensus on such a matter was the best outcome. Being able to return to the main branch of the Lu family, and to return to the main branch of the Lu family in this way, for their Yangqi lineage, it can indeed be said to be proud. Lu Dingbo looked at the excited people, sighed in his heart, and finally decided to tell the story. Everyone, listen to me, Lu Dingbo spoke slowly. Everyone looked at Lu Dingbo, not quite understanding why he suddenly spoke in such a tone. Only Lu Dinghe had a hint of understanding in his expression, but he did not speak. Everyone, our ancestor came to Yangqi alone, established a family, and prospered until now. It can be said that without our Lu ancestor, there would be no you here. However, you must know that our Lu ancestor was born in a Jindan family. As a family member, if he stayed in the family, although the resources would not be so many, it would at least be much better than going to the foreign land alone. Do you know why our Lu ancestor would rather go to the foreign land alone than stay in the family? Everyone looked confused. They only knew that their Lu family had a main vein, but they didn't know what the relationship with the main vein was. Lu Yang also secretly thought in his heart, what was the situation? Was he leaving home in anger, or was he suppressed by the family, or was he trying to prove his ability? In just a few breaths, dozens of guesses had flashed through his mind. Lu Dingbo paused and continued, this matter will only be informed by the previous clan leader to the next clan leader when each clan leader takes over, and it is stipulated that only when the Lu family has the ability and strength to return to the main line of the Lu family can the truth be told to the younger generations of the Lu family. After saying this, Lu Dingbo smiled. It's not a big deal. Our Lu ancestor was also a well-known genius, but there was another genius from the direct lineage in the family. Being in the family, there is naturally a common goal, which is the position of the patriarch. The old patriarch of the main line of the Lu family at that time once said that inheriting the family business is the performance of incompetent people. The truly capable children of our Lu family should be alone, open up the family business, and reopen the family tree. That is what a genius does. As soon as this was said, the genius from the direct lineage immediately decided to leave the family without saying a word, and stated that he would not establish a Jindan family and would not return home. At that time, the ancestor was young and vigorous. In order to prove that he was not inferior to others, he also left home alone and traveled to Yangqiu, with the purpose of opening up the family. But what's funny is that the genius from the direct lineage returned to the family and inherited the position of the patriarch less than 3 years after leaving home. At that time, my Lu ancestor had just arrived in Yangqiu not long ago, and was working hard alone. Even knowing this news was more than 10 years later. After this incident, the ancestor was furious, and at the same time, he was more determined to create a Jindan family, just to be able to return to the main vein of the Lu family one day and prove to those people in the main vein that he, Lu Changfeng, is the best. He disdained to inherit the Jindan family. He, Lu Changfeng, could open up a family on his own and become a patriarch. For this reason, the ancestor Changfeng worked hard, accumulated resources, and cultivated a foundation-building descendant, who was the second patriarch of my Lu family, but unfortunately fell in a struggle and died. After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, the atmosphere in the meeting hall was a little depressing. Lu Dinghe slapped the table heavily, and his breathing sounded like a bellows, so this time, we, the Changfeng lineage, return to the main vein of the Lu family, and we must show our strength to let those villains in the main vein see that our ancestor of the Changfeng lineage is better than the direct genius of the year. That's right, it's really despicable to use such a despicable way to get the position of patriarch. Lu Feng also said indignantly. Be at ease, everyone, Lu Dingbo pressed his palm. We are not going back to the main vein this time to cause trouble, but just to prove that our Lu family ancestors are stronger than the other party. It won't take too long. As long as the people of the Lu family main vein realize this, we can leave. At this point, Lu Dingbo paused, his eyes gleamed, and after taking a deep breath, he said with great momentum, from now on, our Changfang lineage is our own main vein. That's right, our Changfang lineage is not anyone's branch, we are the main vein. That's right. This sentence immediately made everyone present excited. Lu Dingbo looked at Lu Ya and said, yeah, this time when you go back, you may need to shock the situation. Lu Ya naturally understood what his grandfather meant. He is now the only giant and cultivator in the Changfang lineage, so naturally he has to support the situation for the entire Changfang lineage, so as not to be looked down upon by the Lu family main vein. So he said solemnly, don't worry, clan leader, Lu Ya will do his best to live up to the reputation of our ancestors. Okay, with your words, Grandpa is much more relieved. Lu Dingbo clapped his hands and said with a smile. Grandpa clan leader, you don't have to worry about this. Second brother is a peerless genius level cultivator who can defeat the golden elixir at the foundation building stage. Such terrifying strength and talent are probably the top geniuses among the 5 major immortal sects, not to mention that second brother has already formed the elixir. In the same level, second brother is invincible. Lu Hao is tall and his voice is extremely loud. When he opened his mouth, it was like a huge bell, and the sound reverberated in the small meeting hall. Everyone present couldn't help but use magic power to protect their eardrums. Lu Yu was like nothing happened, facing Lu Hao. Third brother, who taught you to say that? You dare to say that you are invincible in the same level, but you don't know the truth that there are mountains beyond mountains and there are heavens beyond heavens? Or is it that after building a foundation, your confidence has soared to the point of looking down on others? After Lu Ya's voice fell, the originally complacent Lu Hao suddenly became a lot weaker. He scratched the back of his head with his big hand, smiled and said, no, second brother, in my heart, you are the most talented genius. I may not have much to do when I return to the main branch of the Lu family this time, but you must have a lot of things to do. As a young generation of foundation building cultivators, you can imagine how many pairs of eyes will be staring at you, trying to step on you, to prove that my Changfang lineage is not as good as the main branch of the Lu family. Third brother, are you ready? Lu Ya raised his eyebrows and analyzed carefully for Lu Hao. Lu Hao was a little dumbfounded. Why did the topic suddenly turn to him? But he thought about it again. It is very likely that it is as his second brother said, and he immediately felt the pressure in his heart. Second brother, I have just established my foundation, it shouldn't be possible, haha, what do you think? Lu Ya sneered. Chapter 287, Hospitality in Kitchen. The next day, at the Lu family's temporary residence, the old and young clan members were packing up their daily necessities in an orderly manner, and then the family monks put the supplies into storage bags. Thanks to the abundance of family resources, everyone in the Lu family has a storage bag, a precious item that can be regarded as the black technology of cultivation. It is not only convenient for cultivation, but also for life. By the lake, Lu Ya and Lu Hao were standing opposite each other. Compared with Lu Ya's calmness, Lu Hao seemed a little embarrassed at this time, and even his burly body subconsciously curled up slightly. Lu Ya looked at Lu Hao in front of him, and after a long time, he sighed. Third brother, after such a long time, your fire control technique has not even reached the 3rd stage? Lu Hao heard Lu Ya sigh and felt a little panicked, but he couldn't talk nonsense about this matter, so he just nodded and didn't explain anything. The 3rd stage of fire control is useless for combat, but if you practice it persistently, it will be an important part of improving your personal combat power in the future. Especially since you chose fire control, you must be interested in it. I said it very frankly at the beginning, but even so, it still can't change anything. Lu Ya looked at Lu Hao helplessly. The 3rd stage only corresponds to the great success of fire control. For this most basic practice spell, even for a cultivator in the key training stage, as long as he is willing to work hard, it is not a problem to achieve great success. However, Lu Hao, who clearly chose the spell that he was interested in and knew that it meant the inheritance of a magical power, still did not make much progress. Second brother, Lu Hao couldn't help but look up at Lu Ya, and after thinking for a while, he said, it's not that I don't work hard. In addition to cultivation, I'm basically practicing fire control, But this spell is really not that easy to master. As if worried that Lu Ye wouldn't believe it, Lu Hao added, "It's not just me. The same is true for other people in the family. Except for the fifth sister who reached the fourth level with the golden sword energy, I haven't heard of anyone reaching the fourth level." The time is still too short. Lu Ye's breath was choked. He actually ignored the most critical issue. From the time he announced these methods of practicing magical powers to now, it has only been less than 3 years. 3 years, for him, is enough to practice magic to the point of giving birth to magical powers, but that was when he had a skill panel. For ordinary practitioners, they may have to practice again and again, slowly accumulate corresponding experience, and spend several years or even decades before they can finally master a magical method. In less than 3 years, it might be too difficult to ask a clan member to practice magic from a beginner to the fifth realm representing the transformation realm, or the fourth realm equivalent to the peak level. After a while, Lu Ye said awkwardly, "Maybe the fifth sister reached the fourth stage a long time ago, which gave me an illusion." After that, Lu Ye changed the subject and stared at Lu Hao, "But this is not your excuse. You should know that you are now a genius cultivator who has already established a foundation, and you also have a true yang treasure body. Your physique is friendly to fire attributes. And practicing fire Taoism will be one step faster than others. Next, you will practice with me until you reach the main vein of the Lu family." Lu Hao heard this, a smile appeared on his face, and he nodded in agreement. "Brother, you are my real brother." After passing the deadly desert, what came to us were endless hills. They are called hills because these mountains are generally not very high, with ups and downs. There are no particularly prominent ones, nor are there any particularly lagging ones. In short, it is an ordinary landform. However, these endless hills that are like earth dragons are a scene of prosperity. The hills are fully covered with lush vegetation, and from time to time, the figures of wild beasts flash between the gaps in the mountains and forests. At this time, above the hills, 3 flying boats were connected in a line and quickly crossed the sky. Inside the flying boat, Lu Ye and Lu Hao sat cross-legged in the room. In front of Lu Hao, there was a small flame burning slowly. Try to maintain the flame, feel it jumping in front of you, and when you find that the flame has become a part of you, it is time to break through the third stage. Lu Ye said while doing his own thing without even raising his eyelids. Lu Hao did not respond, but concentrated on controlling the flame in front of him, so that its burning speed always remained within a stable range. This kind of practice has been going on for 7 days since the family set out. Lu Hao could clearly feel that his understanding of fire control had been greatly enhanced. This progress was not a leap forward, but it was real and there was no trace of falsehood. He had never felt that fire control could be so magical, especially when he saw his second brother personally demonstrate how to use flames to condense lifelike people and monsters. The shock was simply unforgettable for Lu Hao. After flying for another day, the rolling hills finally came to an end, and a vast plain that was large enough to see the horizon appeared in front of the Lu family's flying boat. At the end of the horizon, a building that looked about the size of a matchbox was also seen by everyone in the Lu family. Such a long distance is so big. This cultivation city called Jiqiu City is really huge. Lu Yan, Lu Hao and others stood on the front deck. Lu Dinghe looked at the end of the horizon and sighed with a hint of expectation in his tone. Some information about Dongshan domain, including the cultivation city at the end of the site, was provided by the guy that Lu Ya caught when they crossed Biqiang Ridge. As a cultivator who lives on Biqiang Ridge, which is the border between the 2 domains, he does not need to know too much information about the 2 domains, but the names of the cities closest to Biqiang Ridge on both sides are still known. However, he only knows a name. More detailed information is indeed not something that a foundation-building casual cultivator like him, who has never left Biqiang Ridge for thousands of miles in his life, can know. After a few more hours, the Lu family flying boat finally arrived near Jiqiu City. Before he had time to enter the city, Lu Ya stood on the deck and saw several rays of light flying out of the city, rushing towards them at high speed like a race. Looking at the posture, he was even more anxious than the old pervert who saw a stunning beauty being picked by anyone. The one flying in the front was a middle-aged male monk, with a smile on his face that surpassed the other competitors. Before he arrived, a slightly shrill voice had already reached the ears of Lu Ya and others. "Friends from afar, I am the deputy manager of the Han's restaurant in Kiacheng. I have come from afar. Why don't you follow me into the city and rest for a while?" Chapter 288, The Old City Lord? Invincible? Friends from afar, don't trust the Han's restaurant. Their fees are among the most expensive in Kitchen. It's better to come to Hu's restaurant. The environment is comfortable and there are special products from Dongshan. Why don't you follow me into the city to rest? As soon as the deputy manager of the Han's finished speaking, someone behind him roared. The Lu family stood on the deck and looked at each other when they heard this. They could see shock, surprise and vigilance in each other's eyes. They passed by no less than 20 cities along the way, and no city had ever rushed forward like the one in front of them. Just to attract customers? How much do they need customers, or how much do they want customers? The flying boat gradually stopped, and the 5 streams of light appeared in front of the Lu family. Everyone's face bloomed with enthusiastic smiles. But this smile, coupled with a hostile eye contact between each other, really made people feel nervous. Lu Dingbo stood at the front of the crowd, looking at the 5 radical people, and said calmly, "Hello, fellow Taoists. We are just passing by your precious land, but we have no plan to go into the city to rest." The deputy shopkeeper of Han's restaurant, who finished speaking first, said quickly, "Fellow Taoist, since you are here, you should rest and adjust in the city, so that you can set off better. Besides, Jukyu City is so big, you can take a look. Just wanting to cross it will waste a lot of time. It is better to go into the city to practice for a while, and then go through the city directly, and then leave. Oh? If it is inconvenient to go through the city, it is inevitable for us to take a detour." Lu Dingbo pretended not to hear what the other party said, and said calmly, "This is not allowed. If the old man of the city knows about it, it will be a loss of his face. We can't afford to blame him at that time, and I am afraid that fellow Taoists will also be angered," another manager of the restaurant said quickly. Although his words were full of fear of the so-called city lord, his tone was indeed surprisingly calm. "The old city lord? Is he mad at us?" Lu Dingbo deliberately repeated the sentence. The Han family's deputy shopkeeper who had spoken earlier said, That's right. Taoist friends, you don't know that our Jukyu city lord is over 600 years old. He has been the lord of Jukyu City since my great-great-grandfather's generation, at least 100 years. Taoist friends also know that once a cultivator is about to reach the end of his life, there will always be some changes. What our old city lord cares about most now is his face. Since you are here, if you don't go into the city to rest, I'm afraid that the matter will soon reach the old city lord's ears. By then, the old city lord may attack in anger. Imagine how terrible it would be for an old cultivator at the peak of the golden core to go crazy. Yes. So fellow Taoists, you should follow me into the city from the He's restaurant and rest before setting off. You're talking nonsense. If you want to go to our Han's restaurant, go to our Hu's restaurant, go to our Su's restaurant. Several restaurant managers started to quarrel, ignoring the presence of the Lu family. Lu Dingbo looked at the people who were pushing and shoving, and secretly sent a message to Lu Yan, asking, "Lu Yan, what do you think of these people? I estimate that 70% of what they said is true and 30% is false. As for the old city lord they mentioned, what do you think?" Lu Yan was restraining his breath at this moment, blending in with the Lu family. After hearing Lu Dingbo's question, he thought carefully for a while before answering, "If the old city lord is still a golden elixir, then it's okay for us to enter the city. If the other side is already a unyielding or above, then we can't think too much and can only follow other people's rules. Now the key point is whether the old city lord is still in the golden elixir stage." Lu Dingbo knew what was going on, so he stopped everyone, and then he said with a little arrogance, "The old city lord is angry? He is just a golden elixir cultivator. If we don't have a golden elixir cultivator, how can we be safe and sound when we walk in the world of cultivation?" As soon as these words came out, the 5 people on the opposite side immediately burst into cold laughter, and then the deputy shopkeeper of the Han's restaurant said, "Our old city lord is a real person at the peak of the golden core level, and he has never lost a battle at the golden core level, and he will not hold back if he is angry with you. Once the old city lord takes action, basically no one will be alive." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yan had a little idea in his heart, so he sent a voice message, "Grandpa clan leader, follow them. I want to see what the situation is in Jukyu City." Lu Dingbo stood in front of everyone, waved his hand to pull apart the few people who were passionately spraying each other, and then in the eyes of several people, he finally said, "Okay, stop arguing, we have decided to go to the city to rest for a while." After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, several people immediately pushed and shoved again. In the end, The 5 people reached an agreement and led the Lu family to the city together, looking at each restaurant one by one. Soon, under the attention of the pedestrians in Jukyu City, the 3 flying boats of the Lu family gradually stopped. There must be something wrong with this city. While walking forward with the restaurant manager, Lu Dingbo looked at the passers-by with creepy eyes on the roadside, and couldn't help but want to curse in his heart. Don't worry too much, clan leader, if the other party is just a golden elixir, I have no problem at all. Lu Yang obviously noticed the gazes of the passers-by around him, and then sent a voice message to Lu Dingbo. With Lu Ya's assurance, Lu Dingbo felt a little relieved, and he followed the others to watch. In the end, Lu Dingbo chose to rest in Hu's restaurant. Inside Hu's restaurant, the deputy shopkeeper was leading Lu Dingbo and others across the threshold triumphantly and returned to the restaurant. As soon as Lu Dingbo and his friends stepped into the restaurant, a pot-bellied shopkeeper came up to greet them, with a smile on his face like a wrinkled chrysanthemum. Dear guests, you are from the Lankan region. I wonder if you have brought Lankan region's specialty medicinal materials and so on to my Dongshan region? If so, you can take them out and we will buy them all. Lu Dingbo naturally did not respond to this, even though they were indeed from the Lankan region and brought some elixirs and so on. They still understood the simple truth that wealth should not be shown off. After a few perfunctory words, Lu Dingbo and Lu Ya sat at a table and took a short rest. The shopkeeper of the Hu's restaurant looked at the figures of several people, and an inexplicable gleam flashed in his eyes. Before the tea was finished, a swoosh sound was heard, and the Hu's restaurant had been surrounded. The Lu family put down their teacups and looked towards the main entrance. At this moment, a burly man wearing silver-white armor and looking like a general walked into the Hu's restaurant. Chapter 289 Evil Demon. As the burly man walked into the restaurant, which was originally a little noisy, suddenly became silent, and even the strange looks from the diners disappeared at this moment. Lu Ya glanced casually and found that all the diners were shrinking their heads like quails, not daring to move. He was a little surprised that this burly man had such a great deterrent power. Before Lu Ya and his friends could react, the burly man walked straight to where they were. It was not until this time that Lu Ya and his friends saw the face of the man wrapped in silver-white armor. It seemed to be an ordinary face, but at the first sight of this face, anyone would have a sense of madness and distortion in their mind. If you look at it for a long time, you can even hear a faint whisper in your ears. When Lu Ya was observing the burly man, the other party also cast his eyes over, and in just a moment, the two looked at each other. Lu Ya only felt that the eyes of the burly man opposite him had turned into a pair of extremely dark deep pools, and a trace of black air-like tentacles quickly spread from the deep pool to Lu Ya's soul along the intersection of their eyes. Once entering the soul, the black air-like tentacles instantly turned into black snakes, densely packed and pounced on Lu Ya's soul body. Its momentum was like fire, and its speed was like wind. The next second after Lu Ya met his gaze, densely packed black snakes had already pounced in front of Lu Ya's soul body. Facing these seemingly endless black snakes, Lu Ya's mind sank into the soul body, and in an instant, the soul body's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. As the soul body's eyes opened, the 3-colored lotus suspended above the soul's head shook, and a series of 3-colored auras hung down from Lu Ya's head like ribbons, covering Lu Ya like an eggshell. The black snake opened its mouth to 180 degrees, revealing its pitch-black fangs. Like sharp arrows, it struck the protection formed by the 3-colored lotus, making a dense bang-bang sound. Even if the black snake attacked, the 3-colored protective shield did not move at all. Lu Ya clenched his hand in the air, and a golden-red flame jumped to the palm of his hand. Then he looked at the flame in his palm and clenched his fist. Whoosh! The flame was dispersed, but it did not disappear. Instead, it spread in all directions like a sea of fire. In just a few breaths, it spread to every corner of Lu Ya's soul space. Hiss! The black snake in the sun's true fire turned into a wisp of black gas and pain, and then was quickly burned to ashes. In less than a breath, Lu Ya's soul space regained clarity. In the eyes of outsiders, Lu Ya and the burly man just looked at each other. In less than a breath, the burly man who was walking towards him suddenly seemed to be struck by lightning, and his footsteps froze in midair, and he did not fall down for a long time. On the other hand, Lu Ya, as if nothing had happened, slowly picked up the tea on the table and savored it carefully. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that in less than a breath, the two had already engaged in an invisible confrontation, and in the end, the mysterious young man who was sitting and sipping tea had the upper hand. Drink, the burly man shouted angrily, and stepped down heavily with his right foot that was stiff in the air. With a step, a burning breath escaped from his body, causing his exposed skin to quickly become dry and cracked. "Don't look into his eyes." Liu Ya looked at the other party's actions and warned Lu Dingbo and others through voice transmission. After receiving Liu Ya's voice transmission, Lu Dingbo and others immediately lowered their eyes and no longer looked at the burly man, but only judged his actions from the corner of their eyes. "Ha ho he. Ho ha ho ha. It's so refreshing." The burly man stretched out his bright red tongue to lick his lips that had been cracked into several petals, and then closed his eyes tightly, as if he was savoring his own flesh and blood that he had just swallowed into his mouth. Waves of inky black air emerged from the burly man's body, quickly staining his silver-white armor. Coupled with his now dry and cracked skin, which even exposed the bright red flesh under his skin, he looked like a demon. Gudong, the burly man swallowed the food in his mouth, opened his eyes suddenly, stared at Liu Ya, and smiled strangely. "It has been a long time since I have seen such a pure flame. I believe the old city lord must be very surprised. Come with me, believe me, after you meet the city lord, you will definitely feel extremely fortunate for your decision today." Liu Ya looked at the burly man who seemed a little crazy, and it was really hard to understand why he was a cultivator in the late Jiandan period, and became like this. Seeing that Liu Ya did not answer, he turned his eyes to Lu Dingbo and others, his expression filled with madness. "Although the fire in these people is not so strong, it is rare to see. I promise you that as long as you follow me to see the city lord, these people will wait for you to come back intact." Liu Ya put down the porcelain cup in his hand and slowly stood up from the chair. The burly man's eyes were shining brightly, and blood was flowing through his cracked skin, but he was not moved at all. "Yes, that's right, that's it. Follow the city lord with me to embark on the road of immortality." "Immortality? Just like you? Neither human nor ghost." Liu Ya looked directly into the burly man's eyes and mocked him unceremoniously. "Neither human nor ghost? You haven't seen the true appearance of the road of immortality. Come here, I'll take you to see it," the burly man roared, and the black breath quickly condensed into substance, turning into thick tentacles and shooting towards Liu Ya. After seeing the appearance of the burly man and the strange aura emanating from him, Liu Ya finally determined what this state was. "Evil demon." He slowly uttered 2 words, and the palm that was originally hanging by his side suddenly raised up and pressed down on the burly man opposite from top to bottom. "You don't understand. You don't understand." There seemed to be a living thing wriggling in the body of the burly man wrapped in armor, propping up his armor high, as if something was about to break out of his body. Crackling, with a sound that made people's teeth ache, the height of the burly man expanded directly from less than 2 meters to nearly 3 meters. 2 arms composed of a lot of muscles stretched out from his chest and back, forming a cross shape with his original 2 arms. "You don't understand." The burly man, whose appearance had changed drastically, let out a roar-like roar, with terrifying sound waves, terrifying momentum, thick black tentacles, and a crazy and evil aura rolling and spreading. At this moment, he had mutated into a terrifying monster. Upon seeing this, the diners in whose restaurant showed no fear at all. They quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the burly man, as if the person standing in front of them was not a monster but something sacred. Chapter 290 Entering the Cave. "Ah!" the burly man roared again, and the dark evil power spread all over his body. His strong thighs bent slightly, and the next moment he rushed towards Liu Ya. Liu Ya's eyes flashed, and he took a step forward, and his right hand pressed down again. As his palm fell from top to bottom, everyone in the restaurant felt that their vision was instantly darkened, as if they had suddenly entered the night from daytime. The next moment, the whimpering cold wind whistled, and the sound of rain appeared in everyone's ears. Before everyone could adapt to the sudden change of light, the interior of the restaurant had regained light. Some of the surprised people looked at Liu Ya, and saw that under Liu Ya's palm, the burly man who had been like a madman had now returned to his original shape, and the tentacles all over his body and the 2 muscular arms that had just grown had disappeared. Under his feet, there were large pieces of either bright red or dark liquid, slowly spreading outward along the floor. Liu Ya shook his hand, threw the burly man down, and let him fall into the liquid. "Is this what you call the way to longevity?" Liu Ya pointed out, and a flash of blood flashed. The burly man lying on the ground trembled, and his aura quickly dissipated. After easily getting rid of the burly man, Liu Ya also got rid of all the people he brought with him. Then he slowly walked out of the restaurant and looked up at the city lord's mansion, which was located in the center of the city and also the lowest point in the city. "Since we are here, Let's go and see what the city lord, who is worshipped as a god by this inhumane evil demon, looks like. Lu Yer communicated with Lu Dingbo and others, asking them to return to the flying boat. Then he stepped on the ground, and the whole person disappeared in full view of everyone, as if blown away by the strong wind. When Lu Yer appeared again, he was already in front of the high wall outside the city lord's mansion. Beyond the high wall was the place where the city lord of Jukyu City was. Without stopping, Lu Yer rose up, crossed the arched high wall, and saw the specific appearance of the city lord's mansion. First, what came towards us was a huge cave. The cave is bottomless, and the deepest part is shrouded in thick darkness, blocking the sight and the exploration of the divine consciousness. The surface of the cave is not made of bricks and tiles, but is made of corpses with strange shapes and twisted limbs. These corpses are all strange, and the only thing in common is that each corpse has countless arms growing on it. The arms gather together to form one after another pale flesh and blood arm flowers, which are blooming like flowers on the equally pale cave wall. Under the sunlight, it even appears to be transparent, and you can even see the soft mud-like muscle tissue inside the arm through the pale skin. It is full of weird beauty that makes your scalp numb, and it is disgusting. It is a step that spreads from the surface of the cave to the depths of the cave. Each layer of the steps is paved with bones. The gaps between the bones are filled with pale bone powder. Half-man-high handrails were thoughtfully made on both sides of the steps, and the surface of the handrails was covered with a layer of soft hair. The soft hair fell down, reflecting strands of luster under the sunlight. Lu Yer stood at the entrance of the steps of the cave, silent. After being silent for more than 10 breaths, Lu Yer closed his eyes and exhaled a breath of turbid air. He admitted that he was really shocked after seeing this scene. Lu Yer had killed people before, and even after killing people, he felt that he had adapted to this feeling and became a little numb. But he never thought that there would be such a perverted and disgusting existence in this world. Flesh and blood are walls, bones are steps, and skin and hair are carpets. Although in this world, the lives of mortals are no different from ants in the eyes of many monks. But all these things in sight have greatly impacted Lu Yer's defense line in his heart. In the words of Lu Yer's previous life, its SEM value drops wildly. Ignoring this shocking scene, Lu Yer suppressed his anger, floated in the air, and sank into the cave. Going down the steps, the light in Lu Yer's eyes gradually weakened, but this did not affect his vision. Because on the walls of the cave, the eye sockets of each corpse emitted a faint green light, illuminating the cave. It's a very humane design. As Lu Yer went deeper, the white representing the sun in the outside world had completely disappeared, and the cave was full of dark green. A pair of dark green eye sockets moved with Lu Yer's movement until Lu Yer's figure could no longer be seen, and then gradually dimmed. After about a cup of tea, a huge door of flesh and bones appeared in front of Lu Yer. As if sensing Lu Yer's arrival, the huge door of bones slowly opened to both sides. At the moment of opening the door, a foul smell mixed with blood hit him in the face. Almost instantly, Lu Yer closed all the pores on his body and entered the fetal breathing state. Lu Yer looked down at his feet. A scarlet carpet stretched from the door to the deepest part of the space inside the door, until it reached a bone throne. Lu Yer looked back and saw that, at some point, a dense mass of corpses had appeared behind him. The corpses had green light in their eye sockets, blocking the passage of the cave. So Lu Yer stepped forward. As his steps fell, golden red flames flowed down from his body, igniting every place he walked through. In a trance, wailing echoed endlessly in this underground space. As Lu Yer walked, he soon appeared right below the bone throne. At this time, he had turned into a scorching sun. The golden red sun fire burned the space wantonly, revealing its tyranny. Buzz, in the pure darkness behind the bone throne, a slight humming sound sounded, and then 18 balls of dark green light, 2 rows as big as balls, appeared in Lu Yer's field of vision. A faint green light came from above. With the light of the sun's true fire, Lu Yer saw a huge head as big as a house with stitches everywhere. The moment it saw Lu Yer, the huge head showed joy, and the corners of its mouth slowly split open until the entire head was split in two, and then it barely stopped. What an amazing flame! The huge mouth opened and closed, and a voice like a mixture of thousands of men, women, old and young came out of it, giving people a severe sense of dizziness. Are you the mayor of this Jukyu city? Lu Yer raised his head, looked at the huge head, and asked. Hey, they call me city lord, so I am the mayor of this city. The huge mouth opened and closed, but this time it was a deep and majestic male voice that came out. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, It means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, Domain? Nascent Soul? The huge head, as big as a house, showed a trace of disdain on its face, and it seemed that it did not regard this huge cultivation city as a treasure. However, if you also regard me as the city lord, I would be very interested. The head leaned forward, and the 18 huge eyeballs stared at Lu Yao without blinking, filled with a desire called greed. The drooling scarlet tongue swept across his lips, and the stench of a rotting corpse hit him in the face. Lu Yao looked up, stared directly at the 2 rows of greedy eyeballs, and shook his head slightly. I'm sorry, I don't have such plans. Oh? Then you dared to enter my city lord's mansion alone. Are you going to imitate those so-called righteous cultivators who came to slay demons and exorcise demons a long time ago, and completely kill the evil demons in the eyes of the orthodox world of cultivation? The huge head moved slightly backwards, just like a person who was originally sitting on a chair with his body slightly leaning forward, leaning back on the chair. The black fog enveloped the place, and in Lu Ya's eyes, only the 2 rows of eyeballs emitting a faint green light remained. I came here just to see what the city lord that evil demon said he was like. To be honest, I originally thought that I would meet a completely irrational, depraved and crazy evil demon, but I didn't expect that you still retained a relatively clear mind, which was really beyond my expectation. At this point, Lu Yao paused, looked at the huge head shrouded in the black fog, and observed his reaction. To Lu Ya's surprise, after listening to Lu Ya's speech, the eyes exposed outside the black fog did not show any changes. Obviously. Although the city lord of Jukyu City looks twisted and perverted to the point of losing his mind, he is actually an old monster who has lived for hundreds of years. In hundreds of years, even a pig has learned everything it should learn. So, Lu Yao was about to continue, but was interrupted by the lord of Jukyu City. His 2 rows of dark green eyeballs suddenly turned scarlet, and the deafening sound of thousands of people resounded in this dark cave. So you can go to hell. Who gave you the courage to let a mere ant in the early stage of the golden elixir dare to speak nonsense in front of me? As soon as the voice fell, the black fog in front of Lu Yao suddenly surged, and the huge head climbed towards the dome. Behind the white bone throne, a huge and bloated body outline vaguely emerged. The terrifying and suffocating momentum swept the entire cave in an instant. Look at me. Answer me. Various voices gathered into the same syllables, coming out from the giant mouth that was almost as tall as the cave, forming a sound wave visible to the naked eye, pouring into Lu Ya's mind like a demonic sound. The demonic sound entered his mind, with a clear target, and rushed straight into Lu Ya's soul body. The 3-colored lotus on the head of Lu Ya's soul body shook again, and a 3-colored shield fell down in an instant, protecting Lu Ya firmly in it. Lu Ya looked up and looked at the true appearance of the lord of Jukyu City, who was more than 30 feet tall, and said casually, I admit that I misunderstood you. You are really a demon who has completely lost your mind, demon? That's because you don't understand the mystery of the great way of flesh and blood. In my eyes, I am the real righteous way. The 5 arms of the lord of Jukyu City, which were more than 20 feet long, danced wildly, and his words were full of madness. Suddenly, it lowered its head, and 2 rows of eyes stared at Lu Ya standing in the same place, and the corners of its mouth were grinned to the limit. Let me taste your tempting flesh and blood. Boom. 2 arms as thick as giant pillars fell to the place where Lu Ya stood at a speed that was difficult to see with the naked eye. In an instant, flesh and blood exploded and bones flew. After the blow, the lord of Jukyu City turned his head suddenly and looked at the side of its bloated body. There, Lu Ya's figure suddenly appeared. Ha ha ha, so funny. The lord of Jukyu City laughed wildly, and on his bloated and huge body, thousands of different faces opened their black mouths, their expressions full of joy, and laughed loudly. Play with me, the lord of Jukyu City roared, and his huge body turned around in an instant to face Lu Ya, and his evil power surged like the sea. Then a dark curtain of light spread from his body, completely covering the entire cave space. The moment the black curtain spread, Lu Ya's eyes became much more solemn. Domain. The domain occupies a large part of the factors that crush any cultivator below the nascent soul. The domain formed by each nascent soul cultivator is different, but there is no doubt that in the domain of the nascent soul cultivator, their strength can be maximized, and even more increased. On the contrary, the cultivator trapped in the domain will be excluded and suppressed by the nascent soul domain, and it is a question whether they can exert half of their strength. At the Yinka battlefield, the Blood River True body displayed by the Blood River True person of the Blood Refining sect was strictly speaking the external manifestation of the Blood River True person's domain. No, it's not completely a domain. It can only be said that it has some similarities with a domain. Liu Ya quickly denied his previous guess, and when he looked at the Lord of Jukyu City again, his eyes were no longer so solemn. Hiss. Become a part of my flesh and blood domain. With a roar, the Lord of Jukyu City clenched his 5 hands, and a powerful force instantly covered all parts of Liu Ya's body. It seemed that pale hands emerged from the void and grabbed his body randomly, trying to suppress him in place. Feeling the restrictions on his body, Liu Ya did not hesitate to activate the Blood River Giant Body technique. In an instant, his body swelled to nearly 3 meters. The surging body also represented the surging power. Liu Ya easily broke free from the suppression of the domain of the Lord of Jukyu City. It's fake after all. It only imitates a little bit of the elements of the domain. It's still far from the real domain. Liu Ya looked up, and a grim smile appeared on his face, which was enlarged a lot because of the Blood River Giant Body technique. Just a golden elixir, I give you face, right? As soon as the voice fell, Liu Ya suddenly disappeared from the spot, and when he reappeared, he had already rushed to the bottom of the huge head of the Lord of Jukyu City. Looking at the huge body in front of him, the purple golden elixir in Liu Ya's danchin, which was as dazzling as a star, rumbled, and the powerful magic power from the danchin quickly filled all parts of the body. The next moment, the golden red flame exploded first in the cave, dyeing the dark cave into golden red. Then, the whimpering white wind and raindrops weighing more than 1,000 pounds appeared out of thin air, turning into torrential rain and smashing down on the huge and bloated body of the Lord of Jukyu City. In just 2 breaths, the Lord of Jukyu City was hit by numerous attacks all over his body, and the flying flesh and blood mixed with the violent air waves exploded. Chapter 292 The Struggle of Those Who Have No Way Ahead. Supported by the huge power of the golden elixir, Liu Ya's 3 great magical powers burst out with unimaginable power. In the blink of an eye, the Lord of Jukyu City had suffered a heavy blow, and even the false domain he released could not continue. Liu Ya's figure rose up, all the way to the top of the cave, looking down at the huge torch below, without the slightest joy in his expression, but a trace of regret. After all, it's not a unyielding. Even if you rely on evil magic to practice something similar to domain, it can't play the role it should. It's just deceiving yourself. What do you know? My flesh and blood avenue has consumed all the efforts of my second half of life. In the flames, the Lord of Jukyu City had a hideous face, and his still intact eyes stared at Liu Ya. If the look could kill, Liu Ya might have been cut into pieces. Spending the second half of your life's efforts just to become such a monster, Liu Ya controlled the true fire of the sun, constantly burning the bloated body in the flames. As the true fire burned, sharp and piercing whistles came from the numerous faces on the body of the Lord of Jukyu City, and the Lord of Jukyu City's body was shrinking. No, I was just researching the issue of qualifications at first. In the flames, as the flames burned, the Lord of Jukyu City seemed to have regained his sanity. He looked through the flames and said to Liu Ya, "You don't understand. When you are trapped in the golden core for 300 years and can't see the hope of breaking through the nascent soul, that kind of despair is like a poisonous snake, biting your heart day and night. As the golden core deadline approaches, this bite becomes more and more terrifying." In the flames, the originally bloated and huge body of the Lord of Jukyu City was burned by the true fire, revealing an old body at the core of the heart. At this moment, it was this old body, with its eyes wide open, and only skin and bones left, that roared at Liu Ya with all its strength. So I spent a lot of time and finally found a way to break through the nascent soul. This flesh and blood cave is my dojo, and the flesh and blood road is my way to break through. After I improve my qualifications from white elixir to yellow elixir, the nascent soul will be at my fingertips. The Lord of Jukyu City was shaking wildly in the flames. Some parts were even torn apart due to the violent shaking. There was a trace of black blood flowing. As soon as the blood appeared, it would be burned to ashes by the true fire in the next moment. His dry hands held his body tightly, and he actually wanted to stand firm again. The mana around him began to fluctuate, as if he wanted to fight with Liu Ya again. I can't understand it. Liu Ya clenched his fist fiercely, and a trace of purple gold mana burst out from his body, turning into a blazing sun true fire, instantly burning the arms of the Lord of Jukyu City to ashes. Then Liu Ya pointed with one hand, and a red light flew across and hit his abdomen, completely destroying his danshin. Without the power source of danshin and the support of his arms, the Lord of Jukyu City lost his balance and fell to the ground again. When he fell to the ground, his body was charred. A cultivator who had achieved the perfection of the golden elixir was in a very miserable state at this moment. After all, I have achieved the purple golden elixir. I really don't understand the thinking of people like you. After Lu Ya finished speaking, the Lord of Jukyu City, who was still struggling, suddenly stopped struggling. He stared at Lu Ya blankly, almost falling into a sluggish state. It was not until the flames burned his legs that he came back to his senses in the intense pain. He twisted and struggled frantically in the charred flesh and blood, desperate to crawl towards Lu Ya's direction, and the unwillingness in his eyes was almost real. I am unwilling. What I have pursued for hundreds of years is not worth mentioning in your place. I am unwilling. Lu Ya shook his head, having lost interest in talking to him. With a thought, a cold light penetrated his head and shot into the ground with the remaining force. The body of the Lord of Jukyu City trembled, and he froze in place, and finally turned into charcoal and fell to the ground. Looking at the Lord of Jukyu City who turned into charcoal, Lu Ya did not hesitate and turned to walk out. Behind him, the sun's true fire was completely out of control. In just a few breaths, it ignited the entire cave, and then spread to the ground along the cave passage. Not long after, the entire Lord's cave turned into a sea of flames, and no matter whether it was flesh, bones or anything else, it all turned into ashes in the flames. Lu Ya walked out of the flames slowly, and the flying sparks followed him like a ribbon, and finally gradually dissipated into the air. Without looking back, he flew out of the cave and headed straight for the Lu family flying boat, leaving only the cave that gradually turned into ashes in the flames. Not long after, Lu Ya broke through the sky and appeared on the Lu family flying boat. At this time, outside the Lu family flying boat, it was already surrounded by the residents of Jukyu City, and they all stared at the Lu family flying boat with strange expressions. If it weren't for the protective formation provided by the star-seeking and destiny instrument, these residents might have rushed into the flying boat and started killing. However, with the arrival of Lu Ya and the huge pillar of fire rising into the sky in the center of the city, the residents of Jukyu City looked at Lu Ya with fear, and finally slowly dispersed around him under Lu Ya's calm eyes. Lu Ya glanced at these people, then entered the flying boat. Inside the flying boat, Lu Dingbo and others quickly gathered. How is it, Lu Ya? Did the Lord of Jukyu City embarrass you? Lu Dingbo looked at Lu Ya from left to right to make sure that he was not hurt, and then asked. Of course not. Lu Ya shook his head easily, and then said, let's set off. I have communicated with the Lord of Jukyu City. No one in Jukyu City will stop us. Okay, Lu Dingbo immediately agreed, and then sent a message to the two adjacent flying boats. Not long after, accompanied by a slight tremor, the three flying boats of the Lu family took off one after another and flew towards the vast ocean area behind Jukyu City. When passing by the center of the city, many tribesmen looked at the huge bottomless cave in a daze. They finally understood what Lu Ya meant by communication. It is self-evident what will happen to the people in other people's homes if they are burned directly as torches. Lu Dingbo secretly swallowed his saliva and wanted to say something, but in the end he said nothing. Lu Ya returned to the room, sat cross-legged, and felt a little depressed. The Lord of Jukyu City is so poor that he doesn't even have a decent magic weapon. The storage ring is full of useless materials. It is useless to him and has been burnt to ashes by him. Putting down the storage ring in his hand, Lu Ya recalled what the Lord of Jukyu City said, and sighed slightly in his heart. The situation he is facing is also the situation that most cultivators will encounter, but it's just sooner or later. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 293 Kaienigan City. After passing Jukyu City, the Lu family flew northwest for 5 days and passed through 3 cultivation cities. When the people in those cultivation cities heard that they came from Jukyu City, they were all very surprised. In their opinion, few caravans could get out of Jukyu City safely, and at the very least, they would leave behind a few corpses. It was really because the city lord of this city was too terrifying. His invincible giant in cultivation allowed him to deal with most of the cultivators without the intervention of unyielding cultivators. As for hoping that unyielding cultivators would take action to remove this tumor located at the junction of the two domains, sorry, no one would be willing to do such a thankless task. So a long time ago, all the caravans and cultivators traveling between Lankan and Dongshan domains no longer passed through Jukyu City. even if this would delay the scheduled itinerary. It was also because the Lu family passed through Jushan City that the cultivators they met in the 3 cultivation cities they passed through were particularly sensible and easy to talk to, and they did not encounter any dirty things. However, there was one thing that made everyone feel quite depressed. After all this time, there is no trace of the main branch of the Lu family in Feeling City, Lu Dinghe complained in the flying boat. Lu Dingbo spoke slowly and clearly, I have inquired about it. This happened about 70 years ago. One day, the Lu family in Feeling City encountered some kind of misfortune. Suddenly, the whole family migrated and disappeared since then. After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, the Lu family members in the flying boat fell silent. If they did not know the deeds of the ancestors of the Lu family, they would never feel anything about the disappearance of the main branch of the Lu family. But now, the Lu family members are trying their best to show the strength of the Yangqi lineage in front of the people of the main branch of the Lu family, but suddenly they learn that the main branch of the Lu family is gone. This gap is like punching the iron wall in front of you with all your strength, but the iron wall suddenly turned into cotton, soft and unbearable, making people want to vomit blood. However, the Lu family's main vein goes west, which basically overlaps with the first half of our route to Chenhu territory. My suggestion is to go to Chenhu territory while seeing if we can find the Lu family's main vein. After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, the others also turned their eyes to Lu Yao. I personally have no problem. I am not in a hurry to go to Chenhu territory. Or, I may need to look for it. Anyway, I need to find it. Why not practice with a Lu family's main vein? After all, a Jinden family is an extremely conspicuous existence, Lu Ye replied. This is also good. With the existence of the flying boat, safety is guaranteed and the journey will not be very tiring. The overall environment of Dongshan territory is still relatively safe. During this period, everyone should seize the time to practice and strive to break through the realm of cultivation, Lu Dingbo narrated calmly. Everyone nodded in agreement. Then Lu Dingbo said, the resources for foundation building in the family are still abundant. I plan to give the 5 most contributing key training warriors to the foundation building pills so that they can build their foundations. What do you think? Everyone looked at each other. And finally Lu Feng said, this is a good thing. There are many foundation building cultivators born in the family during this period, and there are also many warrior level cultivators who have perfected key training in the family. At this time, we use the foundation building pill to help them build their foundations. As long as one of them succeeds in building their foundation, the strength of our Lu family will be much stronger. Even if everyone fails to build their foundation, it proves that our Lu family is a trustworthy family that keeps its word. So as long as this is done, it will only benefit our Lu family, not harm it. After Lu Feng finished his analysis, everyone nodded, agreeing with what Lu Feng said. In that case, let's do it. Lu Dingbo waved his hand and said immediately. Lu Feng, you are responsible for the family warriors on weekdays. You select the 10 key cultivating perfect cultivators who are most loyal to the family master, Lu Dingbo said to Lu Feng, and then turned to Lu Tong. Lu Tong, you are responsible for recording the family's contributions on weekdays. Rank the contributions of the 10 people selected by Lu Feng, and select the top 5 to be awarded the foundation building pills for foundation building. Lu Ye just sat quietly aside, watching the conversation between the few people. Lu Dingbo's approach is already the best solution. In fact, he can directly ask Lu Tong to select the warriors with the highest contributions, and then grant them the foundation building pills for foundation building. But if he only does this, the effect will definitely be greatly reduced. Only through Lu Feng to gather the 10 warriors, and then Lu Tong to select the 5 cultivators with the highest contributions. In this way, the remaining cultivators who have not received the foundation building pills will be the ears and eyes of the Lu family. This matter will soon spread among the Lu family warriors, thereby motivating the warriors to work harder to obtain contributions, in the hope of being awarded the foundation building pills in the next round. The Lu family acted quickly. In less than an hour, 5 generals were selected. After receiving the blue-white jade bottle representing the hope of building a foundation, a glimmer of hope flashed in the eyes of the 5 generals. Just as the 5 generals entered the vacated flying boat and took the foundation building pill to build their foundation, the Lu family's flying boat had already flown to Cultivation City. A large cultivation city called Kyanitun City is one of the cities under the jurisdiction of Kyanitun Palace, a first-class cultivation sect in Dongshan Domain. This is also the first city controlled by a first-class sect that the Lu family encountered in Dongshan Domain. Unlike Danding City, the Kayanilin City flying boat must stay outside the city. Outside the city, there are 8 flying boat stations for flying boats to dock. There are many warehouse-like rooms built around the flying boat stations, as well as a large number of storefronts and shops, with all kinds of magic tools, elixirs, talismans, and array plates. Every day, a large number of convoys transport supplies here, and a wide variety of supplies flow to various parts of Kayangan City through the post station. After all, it is a large city with a rich population, and the daily consumption of supplies is an astronomical figure. The daily income of this city, just a post station, is definitely more than that of Yang's city, which we were in charge of at that time. Lu Dingbo stood at the porthole, looking at the prosperous scene in the post station below, and couldn't help sighing. Then, without waiting for everyone to comfort him, Lu Dingbo smiled casually. Even so, what? I am very happy now. Everyone looked at each other, all a little speechless. The Lu family flying boat slowly docked at the flying boat post station below. As the cabin door opened, Lu Ye and others slowly walked out of the flying boat. After getting off the flying boat, Lu Ye habitually scanned the circle, but suddenly paused. His eyes stopped on a young man in a golden brocade robe who had just got off the flying boat. On the young man, Lu Ye felt a very familiar burning breath. It seems that there is no need to look for it anymore. Chapter 294 Visiting Card. After the young man in the golden brocade robe got off the flying boat, he waited quietly on the side. Not long after, a middle-aged man got off the flying boat. He wore a jade crown and a purple gold brocade robe. He was of moderate build, but his temperament was majestic, which made him look a little taller. His steps were neither slow nor fast, and every step he took was extremely steady and down to earth. It can be seen that he is a person with a calm mind. Of course, it would be better if his habitual frown could be relaxed. Lu Ye no longer felt the familiar breath on the middle-aged man in the purple gold brocade robe. It seemed that Lu Ye had been looking for a long time. The young man in the golden brocade robe suddenly turned his head and looked over, and met Lu Ye's calm eyes. Lu Ye nodded slightly at him, then retracted his gaze and walked slowly with the Lu family. The young man in the golden brocade robe nodded subconsciously, but after nodding, he found something wrong. His smooth eyebrows frowned high, and he looked at Lu Ye's back with some doubts. Yang Hui, what are you looking at? Why are you so absent-minded? The words of the middle-aged man in purple gold brocade robe finally pulled the thoughts of the young man in golden brocade robe back. Nothing, father, I just feel that the people over there are familiar, as if I have seen them somewhere before. The young man called Yang Hui retracted his gaze and looked at the middle-aged man in purple gold brocade robe, and said in a calm tone. Familiar. The middle-aged man in purple gold brocade robe followed Yang Hui's gaze, but only saw the increasingly smaller backs of Lu Ye and others. He did not gain anything, so he shook his head helplessly and said, let's go, Yang Hui, this trip has taken a lot of time, it's time to go back to the clan. Second brother, what did you see just now? Several Lu family foundation builders were walking on the road, and Lu Hao approached Lu Ye and asked in a low voice. Lu Ye glanced at him lightly, which made Lu Hao stop smiling instantly. Looking at his serious appearance, Lu Ye said as he walked, nothing, I just felt the same aura as our Lu family. The same aura. Lu Hao did not react for a while. But he soon remembered something, clapped his hands, and asked anxiously, second brother, are you talking about the aura of Zuanyang Yikiju? Lu Ye nodded, without stopping his steps. Really? Lu Hao's voice unconsciously raised a little. So, the so-called main branch of the Lu family is in this city, whether it is there or not, we can find out by asking later, Lu Ye said. Is this true? Lu Tong looked at the two and asked. There was no way. Lu Hao thought that whispering was no different from talking in person in the eyes of everyone. Moreover, Lu Hao's voice was originally extremely loud. Even if everyone didn't want to listen, they were forced to hear it. Lu Ye looked at his third uncle, it just feels a little similar. Maybe I feel it wrong, but if you ask around in Kayangan City, you will know it clearly. Since Lu Ye said so, let's split into 3 groups and find out if there is a Lu family in Kayangan City. Lu Dingbo immediately took over the conversation and made a decision. Several people nodded, and when they entered the city, they immediately dispersed. 2 hours later, the Lu family returned to the agreed meeting place, under a big tree outside the city gate. Several people looked a little excited. Among them, Lu Hao was the youngest and the most impatient. After seeing everyone gathered, he quickly said, "There really is a Jinden family surnamed Lu in Kainitan City." Lu Tong nodded and said, "Indeed, and this Jinden family surnamed Lu is quite powerful. The ancestor of the family is already a great cultivator in the late Jinden realm, and the current head of the family has also broken into the Jinden realm. There are two Jindens in one family, which is really powerful." In his tone, it is not clear whether it is more envy or ridicule. Lu Dingbo continued, "And the time is relatively consistent, and it is said that Kainitan Palace has a lot of connections with the Lu family. From this point of view, the sudden migration back then may not be due to any threat, but to seek better development opportunities." Lu Yan nodded slightly. "This is a bit interesting. If the family had to move to avoid disaster because of its ruin, then facing the ruined Lu family, there is no point in proving itself. Only when the other party is equally powerful and develops to a higher level, in this case, the appearance of the Lu family is valuable. Since the main vein of the Lu family has been found, there is no time to lose. I will send out a prepared visiting card and then pay a formal visit. I will also formally see what the main vein that my ancestors missed so much looks like," Lu Dingbo said passionately, and the expectation and excitement in his words were clearly visible. Seeing that no one objected, Lu Dingbo wanted to return to Kainitan City and send out a visiting card. "Patriarch, wait a moment." When Lu Dingbo was about to leave, Lu Ya suddenly called him. "Lu Ya, what's the matter, Patriarch? Please take out a visiting card and let me see it." Lu Dingbo didn't understand, so he took out a pre-prepared envelope from the storage bag and handed it to Lu Ya. Lu Ya took the envelope, but did not open it. He just rubbed it with his fingers and returned it to Lu Dingbo. "Lu Ya, what are you doing?" Not only did Lu Dingbo not understand, but the others also did not understand Lu Ya's behavior. Seeing this, Lu Ya explained, "It's nothing. I just attached a trace of Jinden magic power to the letter, so that when I use it as a visiting card, I can let the other party know at a glance. So that's it." Everyone suddenly realized. Although the probability of being ignored after sending such a visiting card is very small, it is not impossible. Lu Ya attached a trace of Jinden magic power to it, and this letter is already different. If you don't have the Jinden level, when you pick up this letter, you will be affected by the Jinden magic power, and your body will involuntarily tense slightly, which makes people have to pay attention. Afterwards, Lu Dingbo and Lu Ya and others split into two groups. One went to the city, and the other returned to the flying boat. Half an hour later, in the most spacious and luxurious study room in the Lu family mansion, a dignified middle-aged man looked at the envelope on the sunken wood desk in front of him, dazed. On the upward side of the envelope, a few large characters were neatly written. "Yangqi Lu family. Yangqi Lu family." Yangqi, the middle-aged man muttered to himself, and suddenly there seemed to be a flash of lightning in his mind. He stood up from the chair with a bang, looking at the envelope in front of him in disbelief. Uncle Chang Feng's lineage? Uncle Chang Feng actually opened up a family. Feeling the pure golden elixir breath on the envelope, his face was complicated. He sat back in the chair, opened his eyes and looked at the envelope. After a long time, he said to himself, "Yangqi's lineage, come to visit. It seems that I have to ask my grandfather to come out of seclusion." Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 295 Lu Zhonghua. The next day, at the gate of Kainitan Palace, a rainbow light descended from the sky. When the light faded, the cultivator inside was revealed. It was a middle-aged man from the main branch of the Lu family wearing a purple and gold brocade robe, and also the current patriarch of the Lu family. The two Kainitan Palace disciples guarding the gate obviously knew him. Before he landed, they had already stepped forward and saluted respectfully. Kainitan Palace Zhang Tao Wang Wu Ang, meets Senior Lu Guang. The current patriarch of the main branch of the Lu family is named Lu Guang. "Excuse me, Mr. Lu, I am visiting Kainitan Palace with a presumption. The main reason is that there is an important matter in the family, and I have to discuss it with the ancestor. I hope you can pass it on for me." Lu Guang bowed slightly, with an easygoing attitude, and said to the two Kainitan Palace disciples guarding the gate with a smile, "Senior Lu, please be polite. You want to find Elder Lu, there is no need to pass it on. Junior Brother Wang, please wait here. I will accompany Senior Lu to Elder Lu's cave," Zhang Tao said with a smile. "Are you kidding? The Lu family is a powerful force in Kainitan Palace. The ancestor of the Lu family even has the cultivation of the late Jinden stage and is an elder of Kainitan Palace. And now, the current patriarch of the Lu family also broke into the Jinden stage 20 years ago and is a true Jinden cultivator. No matter how blind they are, they will never offend the current patriarch of the Lu family, the Jiandan Zhenren. Seeing this, Lu Guang bowed his hands and smiled again to thank him. In this case, I will trouble you, young friend Zhang. His attitude was approachable and his tone was not hurried. Not to mention Zhang Tao, the person involved, even Wang Wu'ing beside him felt physically and mentally comfortable, and respected Lu Guang even more in his heart. After the two men walked away, Wang Wu'ing closed the mountain protection formation. He looked at the two people who left and smacked his lips. You are worthy of being the patriarch of the Jiandan family. The way you treat people makes people feel relaxed and happy. Zhang Tao accompanied Lu Guang all the way. When they reached the waist of a mountain, he pointed to a cave that was looming in the clouds not far ahead and said, Senior Lu, the cave ahead is where Elder Lu's cave is. Do you need me to pass the message on? Lu Guang smiled and replied, Thank you, little friend Zhang. I won't bother you anymore. You are responsible for the mission of the sect. It is not easy for you to make an exception for me. It is just a small gift. I hope you two won't despise it. As he said that, Lu Guang took out 2 jade bottles from the storage ring and stuffed them into Zhang Tao's hands without saying anything. Senior Lu, you can't do this. This is my job. You must not use it to make money. Zhang Tao held the 2 jade bottles in his hand. Although he was eager in his heart, he still said seriously, My friend, don't be so polite. I have something important to do, so I will go in first. After Lu Guang finished speaking, he walked quickly towards the cave without waiting for Zhang Tao to refuse. Senior Zhang Tao called out 2 more words behind him, and seeing that Lu Guang didn't turn his head, he had to give up. Then he looked at the jade bottle in his hand, with joy in his eyes. 2 bottles of gathering spirit pills that promote the growth of foundation building cultivators are not cheap. Even for disciples like them who are in the early stage of foundation building, 1 more bottle will save a lot of spirit stones. Lu Guang walked to the front of the cave, and before he made any move, he saw the heavy stone door in front of him rumbled to the side, revealing the bright cave inside. Guang, why did you come to me suddenly? Come in and talk. At the same time, a slightly old voice sounded in his ears. Lu Guang walked into the cave without stopping. When he heard the words, he walked quickly into the cave. When he entered the cave, the stone door behind him closed again. The cave was bright and almost the same as the outside world. It was hard to imagine that this was a cave grotto located in the belly of the mountain. Lu Guang walked around the entrance and came to an exquisite courtyard. There was an ancient tree with lush branches and leaves that was more than 3 meters high in the courtyard. Under the canopy of the ancient tree, there were 2 people sitting opposite each other. On the stone table between the 2 people, there was a chessboard. One of them had silver hair and was quite old, but his face was ruddy, and he looked like a Taoist master with white hair and a youthful face. The other one was wearing a white robe, and his fingers holding the flag were as slender as jade. He was a young man who looked no more than 20 years old. Lu Guang walked into the courtyard, and the 2 looked at him at the same time. The old man did not move, but the young man nodded slightly to Lu Guang, as if he was an equal. Lu Guang approached and bowed. Lu Guang, I meet the ancestor in the Taoist Qianju. The old man was the eldest son of the Lu family, Lu Zhonghua, who was once the same generation as Lu Chengfeng who had fled to Yanqing. Lu Zhonghua nodded slightly, motioned Lu Guang to sit down, and said, You have also met Taoist Qianju. Don't be shy. What is the purpose of your visit this time? Lu Guang's face changed slightly, and he hesitated to speak. Seeing this, the young-looking Taoist Jinju immediately put the chess piece in his hand into the chess basket beside him, and said with a chuckle, It seems that this game of chess is over, old Lu. Let's play again next time. Seeing this, Lu Zhonghua glared at him, almost blowing his beard and glaring at him. Jinju boy, you know you can't win, so you want to make an excuse to escape. How can such a good thing happen? Guang, if you have something to say, just tell me quickly. After I finish speaking, I will kill this Jinju boy without leaving a single piece of armor. Lu Guang hesitated for a moment, then said, Ancestor Zhonghua, I received a visiting card yesterday. The owner of the card said that he would formally visit my Lu family in 2 days. Visit my Lu family? Lu Zhonghua looked at Lu Guang with a little confusion. You can solve this kind of thing. Why? Before he finished speaking, he put down the chess piece in his hand, looking inquiringly. Could it be that the ancestor of the Yu family in Qiannigan City is coming? Or is it the Yuanying Yu family? Ancestor? Neither, Lu Guang replied. None of them. That's strange. Apart from these families, Who else is worthy of your personal trip? In response to Lu Zhonghua's inquiry, Lu Guang looked at Zhenren Qianzhu again, and then said, "It's the Yanqilu family who came to visit." Yanqilu family. Lu Zhonghua didn't react for a moment. He searched carefully in his mind, but had no impression. He frowned and asked, "Yanqilu family? Why have I never heard of it?" At this time, Zhenren Qianzhu interrupted and said, "Yanqilu family, does this Yanqi refer to Yanqi region?" Hearing this, Lu Guang nodded slightly and said, "It is indeed from Yanqi region. Ancestor, do you still remember Uncle Lu Changfeng?" Crack, a slight cracking sound came from Lu Zhonghua's hand, and the chess piece he had just dropped, along with the stone chessboard, was now split in two. Changfeng. Lu Zhonghua stood up suddenly, his aura as deep as the sea emanating involuntarily. He stared at Lu Guang and asked word by word, "Are you saying that your uncle Changfeng has come to visit my Lu family?" Chapter 296, Meeting the Master. After finishing speaking, Lu Zhonghua shook his head again, and said with a sad expression, "Impossible. The eternal lamp that Changfeng left in the clan was extinguished 100 years ago, and he has died in a foreign land." Seeing this, Lu Guang explained, "It should be the visiting card handed over by the descendants of Uncle Changfeng, and I see that there is a pure golden elixir breath on the visiting card." Lu Zhonghua's body was shocked when he heard this. After a little distraction, he muttered to himself, "Golden elixir, you mean that there is a golden elixir cultivator among Changfeng's descendants?" Lu Guang nodded. Lu Zhonghua sat back on the stone bench, and after a long time, he sighed with a complicated expression, Changfeng, you have proved yourself after all. I am not as good as you, ancestor." Lu Guang didn't understand, so he spoke out. Lu Zhonghua waved his hand, motioning him not to say anything more, and sighed, "It is indeed I who have to go." When Zhenren Qianzhu saw Lu Zhonghua like this, he felt very curious, so he said, "Haha, old Zhonghua, your appearance makes me very curious. I wonder if I can join you in your visit in 2 days, you kid." Lu Zhonghua cursed angrily, then nodded and said, "Forget it, if you want to come, then come." "Haha, thank you very much." Zhenren Qianzhu was not annoyed, he bowed and replied with a smile. Lu Zhonghua was no longer in the mood to argue with him. He waved his hand without interest and said, "It seems that we can continue this game of chess today. Qianzhu, let's play again another day." Zhenren Qianzhu smiled, as if he had succeeded in stealing a chicken. I told you, this way I saved another bottle of Fire Source Spirit Wine. By the way, Fire Source Spirit Wine," Lu Zhonghua threatened. "Qianzhu, you can join in the fun, but my Changfeng lineage has come from afar, so you must supply this Fire Source Spirit Wine, otherwise you don't have to join in the fun." Zhenren Qianzhu's face turned bitter, and he regretted being too talkative, but he really wanted to join in the fun, so he could only nod with a bitter face and gritted teeth. "Okay, I'll pay for the wine. It's a big loss." Without further ado, "Guang, you will return to Qiannigan City with me. Have you made any arrangements?" Lu Zhonghua stood up and asked Lu Guang as he stood up and walked out. "Don't worry, ancestor. Before I came, I had already instructed the clan to follow the highest standards in reception and other matters," Lu Guang said, and then bowed to Qianzhu's Henrun. "That's very good." After saying that, he turned into rainbow light and flew quickly towards the direction of Qiannigan City, followed by Lu Guang. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning of this day, everyone in the Lu family had put on their robes. Even Lu Dinghe, who was a bit unruly on weekdays, combed his hair specially. Facing the rising sun, Lu Dingbo stood at the front of the team, looked at all the clan members, and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." As soon as the voice fell, everyone in the Lu family filed out of the flying boat. After landing, they moved step by step towards the direction of the main vein of the Lu family. Everyone looked serious, and every step they took was steady and powerful. The flying boat post station was a little far away from the house of the main vein of the Lu family, but everyone had cultivation, so it didn't take too much time. Everyone appeared at the boundary of the area where the house of the main vein of the Lu family was located. At the gate of the main branch of the Lu family, a group of people who had been waiting for a long time had already noticed them and came to greet them quickly. Such a grand ceremony surprised everyone in the Lu family. In the oncoming team, there was a young man in a golden robe whom Lu Yat had met before, and a middle-aged man in a purple and gold brocade robe, but the leader was an old man with white hair and a youthful face. I think the old man in the front is the current ancestor of the main branch of the Lu family. He is of the same generation as my Lu family ancestor and is now Uncle Lu Zhuanghua, who has reached the late Jinden stage. Lu Dingbo looked at the old man in the lead with a slightly complicated expression as he walked quickly towards his family, and sent a message to the people of the Lu family behind him. Soon, Lu Zhuanghua brought Lu Guang and others to the Lu family. His eyes swept through the Lu family, but his eyes were fixed on Lu Yang's face, muttering to himself, "Looks like, too much like, really a descendant of Chang Feng." After muttering to himself, Lu Zhuanghua quickly recovered and asked with a gentle face, "I am Lu Zhuanghua, the descendant of Chang Feng of the Yanke Lu family." Lu Dingbo stepped forward, bowed his hands calmly and said, "Ancestor Chang Feng is the ancestor of my Lu family. I, the younger Lu Dingbo of the Yanke Lu family, have the audacity to visit, but I never thought of troubling ancestor Chang Hu to greet him in person. It is really a sin. In a family, seniority is the most particular. Although I don't have much good feelings for the so-called main branch of the Lu family, I must not be arrogant when facing the ancestor of the same Chang generation as the ancestor of the Lu family. Otherwise, once it is spread out, it will make people laugh at the Yanke Lu family for having no ancestors or clans, and having no teachings. Of course, this is within the clan. If it is outside the clan, if there is no marriage relationship between the families, there will not be so many rules. They will just rely on their strength." Lu Zhuanghua hurriedly supported Lu Dingbo's arm and helped him up. After looking him up and down, he sighed. "When we parted that year, I thought it was just a short separation, but I never thought that it would be a farewell forever. It was not until Chang Feng's eternal lamp went out that I realized that I would never see Chang Feng again in this life. I wonder why Chang Feng suddenly died that year." Lu Dingbo replied calmly, "Ancestor Chang Feng died in a fight with others, and now the culprit is long gone." Hearing this, Lu Zhuanghua was silent for a moment and could only sigh. After sighing, Lu Zhuanghua forced a smile and changed the subject. "By the way, I heard from Guang that there was a golden elixir on the visiting card that day. I am not very good at seeing, so I don't know which clan member it was." Lu Dingbo turned to look at Lu Yang, motioned him to come forward, and said, "Lu Yang is the grandson of the younger generation." "Grandson? I think you are no more than 80 years old, so how old is Lu Yang?" Lu Zhuanghua was surprised. Even the main branch of the Lu family behind him looked at Lu Yang in surprise, with many inquiries in their expressions. Lu Yang stood side by side with Lu Dingbo, bowed to Lu Zhuanghua and said, "Junior Lu Yang of the Yanke Lu family, meet the ancestor Zhuanghua." As he said that, the restrained breath was slightly released, and everyone present felt their breath slightly choked, and then they realized that the young man from the Lu family lineage in front of them from the Yankee domain was really a genuine golden elixir. The inquiring eyes were immediately all gone, and only curiosity and a trace of respect remained. You know, their Lu family has the Kyanitun Palace as their back, and now they only have 2 Jinden, while the Lu family lineage thousands of miles away has given birth to such a young Jinden's Henrin, whose potential is immeasurable. Everyone, remember to vote. P.S. Thank you Yanzu Book Friend 202205191632218519 and Yu Yan Book Friend 202007071216025880 for the reward. Thank you to Book Friends for the reward. Chapter 297 Some people are discontent. With a look of amazement in his eyes, Lu Zhuanghua looked at Lu Yang and said, "It is true that the young are formidable. Brother Chang Feng was as talented as you back then. Old ancestor Zhuanghua, you are too kind. Ancestor Chang Feng worked hard to open up the family business. Lu Yu would never dare to compare with him." Lu Yan remained calm and answered seriously. His words made Lu Zhuanghua's eyes darken, and he immediately understood that the young man opposite him might have known everything about the incident back then. Lu Zhuanghua sighed. "Brother Chang Feng is determined and has opened up the family alone. I am indeed not as good as him." Lu Zhuanghua's straightforward attitude was unexpected by Lu Yang and others, and they couldn't help but look a little strange. The ancestor is an elder of Kyanitun Palace, with a late Jinden cultivation and a high position. How can he be inferior to a foundation-building person back then? At this moment, hearing Lu Zhuanghua's words, a young man in a golden robe standing behind Lu Zhuanghua couldn't help but whispered, his words full of dissatisfaction. Although his voice seemed to be very low, everyone present had cultivation, so for everyone, it was the same as speaking directly to his face. After these words came out, the expressions of the people in the Yanke Lu family did not change, but Lu Changfeng glared, and released the aura of the late giant period without reservation, pressing down on the young man in the golden robe who had just spoken. HMPH, when is it your turn as a junior to interrupt when the elders are talking? Lu Zhonghua moved his mind, and an invisible force lifted the young man in the golden robe off the ground. Lu Yanghe only felt difficulty breathing, his magic power stagnated, and he was at the mercy of others like a lamb to be slaughtered. Ancestor, Yanghe just spoke quickly, and he had no ill intentions. Lu Guang, who was standing behind Lu Zhonghua, saw this and hurriedly stepped forward and whispered to persuade. HMPH, after all, it was in public, and Lu Changfang couldn't do anything to punish him directly, so he snorted coldly and threw Lu Yanghe down heavily. Lu Yanghe retreated several steps and finally stood firm again with the help of his clansmen. His face was red, and he said nothing after landing, looking down at his feet. Dingbo, Lu Yan, this is the current Lu clan leader Lu Guang. Lu Changfang pointed at the middle-aged man who had just spoken and said. His posture clearly showed that he was looking up to the Lu clan members from Yanka domain. Meetings, Elder Guang, Lu Yan and Lu Dingbo saluted Lu Guang together. There was no other way. In terms of seniority, Lu Guang was of the same generation as their third-generation ancestor of the Lu clan, and there was more than one generation difference between them. Lu Guang also hurriedly returned the salute respectfully, behaving meticulously, without the slightest carelessness. The Yanka Lu clan was polite to him, just to give him face. Did they see that there was a Jinden's Henren who was probably not even 30 years old in front of him? This kind of terrifying evildoer basically had no problem in achieving the nascent soul, and he might even be able to break through to the realm of the God of Transformation, or even above the God of Transformation. Knowing that this terrifying potential was here, if he dared to act like an elder, what kind of thing would he have in his head to be so confused? Although he was also a giant and cultivator, Lu Guang knew very well that he could only reach giant at most in his lifetime, and it was basically impossible for him to reach unyielding. Lu Guang was the head of the clan, and he was always very good at dealing with people. He just said a few words to get over the little episode, and the atmosphere became relaxed again. That was my son Lu Yanghe just now. Young people don't know the importance of things. I hope you will forgive me for my rudeness. The Lu family didn't care. To be honest, when they came, they were ready to be looked down upon and even provoked. However, the current development was somewhat beyond the expectations of the Lu family. Lu Zhonghua took over the topic and pointed to the young man standing side by side with him and said, "This is the elder Qianzhu's Henren of Qiannigan Palace. He is a close friend of mine. Today, I have nothing to do, so I came with me to greet you. It turns out that you are the master of Qiannigan Palace. I have heard of you for a long time." Lu Dingbo smiled slightly, and Lu Yang also bowed slightly. At this time, Master Qianzhu no longer had the incoherent manner when he was bickering with Lu Zhonghua. He nodded seriously and returned the greeting. Everyone from the Changfang lineage has traveled a long way and is exhausted. The welcoming banquet is ready. Why don't we eat and chat at the same time? In that case, it would be disrespectful to refuse. Lu Dingbo did not hesitate and accepted on behalf of the people behind him. After that, there was another round of courtesy and flattery. Both Lu Dingbo and Lu Guang were very skilled in this kind of thing. Therefore, the two family heads talked while walking, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. There was no discomfort at all because of the unequal cultivation. Lu Yer walked side by side with Lu Zhonghua and Master Qianzhu, and communicated with each other. But the more they communicated, the more serious the expressions of Lu Zhonghua and Master Qianzhu became. Originally, they thought that Lu Yer was just a young junior who had just formed a pill, and they still had some ideas of helping the younger generation and passing on experience. But unexpectedly, whether it was cultivation or fighting, this young man Lu Ya could speak clearly, and it was obvious that he had his own opinions. Even many of his words needed Lu Zhonghua and Master Qianzhu to carefully ponder and chew over and over again. When they arrived at the Lu clan's land, after everyone took their seats in turn as host and guest, Lu Zhonghua and Master Qianzhu no longer looked down on the younger generation, but instead treated Lu Ya as a peer. Come on, try the fire source spirit wine that Master Qianzhu has treasured for decades." The atmosphere was extremely lively after the welcome party, but it was hard for Master Qianzhu, as his decades of savings were reduced by half in an instant, making him feel that the fire source spirit wine, which was originally very smooth, became bitter. Maybe it was because the fire source spirit wine was indeed a fine wine, or maybe it was for some other reasons, Anyway, when the welcoming banquet was coming to an end, a young man who looked to be in his 20s with a blush on his face asked Lu Hao, who was sitting at the same table with him, "To be honest, I have lived for almost 25 years. But I have never heard that my Lu family actually has a Yanke branch. Moreover, I heard that the Yanke region is also very chaotic and is far from being as peaceful as our Dongshan region. Fellow Taoist Lu Hao, am I right?" Lu Hao put down the wine glass in his hand, and his sturdy body looked like a small mountain. He looked at the drunken young man, lowered his voice, and said, "That's basically right. The Yanke region is indeed much more dangerous than the Dongshan region." Snap! The young man clapped his hands and said drunkenly, "In that case, Brother Lu Hao must be very good at fighting. I may be 2 years older than you, but I have been practicing in the clan since I was a child, and my experience is far less than that of Brother Lu Hao. I wonder if you can have a fight or two with Brother Lu Hao, so that I can see it for myself." At the end, there was no trace of drunkenness in his eyes, and he looked at Lu Hao with a hint of provocation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Yang Kui Lu Hao vs Kyanitian Palace Lu Yangshan. Finally, it's here, Lu Hao sighed in his heart. He knew that the sudden visit of their Lu family, coupled with Lu Zhonghua's remarks, would indeed be as expected, and some people would be dissatisfied. This time we visited the main branch of the Lu family. To put it nicely, it is a friendly exchange to let the main branch of the Lu family know that my Changfeng branch is stronger than the main branch of the Lu family. But to put it bluntly, we are going to step on their faces. We can't expect that after we hit others in the face, they will smile and put the other half of their face up to us to hit. Lu Hao remembered the words that his family had said in a serious tone in the flying boat before setting off in the morning. So, if someone provokes you, as long as they are of the same age, you must accept it, and fight openly and honestly. Who is stronger and who is weaker is not something that can be determined by words. Only by showing it with your hands can you shut everyone up. Just as Lu Hao was thinking about what Lu Dingbo said, the provocative young man saw that he was silent and thought that he did not have the courage to accept it, so he flashed a trace of contempt in his eyes and said, "I heard that your Lu family's ancestor Chang Feng left his hometown because he knew that he could not defeat our ancestor Chang Hu and could not inherit the position of patriarch. Why do you think the time has come now, so you plan to come back and show off your power?" Bang! Lu Hao stood up suddenly, and his big hand like a palm leaf fan pressed on the table. His tall and burly body leaned forward slightly, and a huge shadow enveloped the young man. "Then please wipe your eyes, brother, and see it for yourself." The changes here naturally could not escape the perception of others, and everyone immediately cast their eyes on Lu Hao and the others. Compared to the Lu family members who already knew what they would encounter, some members of the main Lu family who were far away were a little confused at the moment. "Isn't that Lu Yangshan? He is usually kind to others in Kyanitian Palace, and his cultivation has reached the middle stage of foundation building. Why does he seem to have a conflict with the young man from the Yanke Lu family? What's going on?" Lu Yangshan heard that the Yanke Lu family was coming to visit, so he specially returned from the sect. "Why is he so ungrateful? It seems that the two of them are planning to spar with each other, but I'm not sure about the details." There were constant whispers. Lu Yangshan also stood up with a faint smile at this time, raised his head slightly and looked at Lu Hao. "In this case, please go, Brother Lu Hao." After speaking, he turned his head to look at the others and explained, "Just now, I was in a good mood and wanted to spar with Brother Lu Hao from Yanke Domain. Unexpectedly, Brother Lu Hao was a little excited, so we went to the family martial arts field." When the people of the main Lu family heard this, they immediately exploded. Some people complained, some agreed, and some looked at the scene expressionlessly. It's rare for foundation building cultivators to fight each other. Brother Seventh shouldn't mind us watching, right? Soon, a young voice came out, and then more similar voices rang out. Lu Yangshan first bowed to the main seat to apologize, then nodded slightly to the person who had just asked the question, and finally walked out. Lu Hao looked up at Lu Ya and Lu Dingbo, and seeing that neither of them had any reaction, he also bowed and followed them out. Seeing Lu Hao and the other two leave, as well as a large number of Lu family main lineage members leaving with them, Lu Zhonghua, who was in the main seat, glared at Lu Guang fiercely, and then looked at Lu Yang. Lu Dingbo, and Lu Dinghe with an apologetic look. Lu Guang stood up and was about to stop the two. Lu Dingbo, on the other hand, held out his hand to stop Lu Guang, saying, "It's no big deal for the juniors to compete with each other, so let them go." Seeing this, Lu Guang had no choice but to nod and sit down again. Before Lu Guang sat down, he saw Master Jinju holding a wine pot and smiling ruddy, saying, "Hey, my disciple from Kyanitian Palace is competing with others, and as an elder of Kyanitian Palace, I have to go and see how he practices." As he said that, he nodded to the people present, then stood up and walked out. Lu Yang and Lu Dingbo looked at each other, and then Lu Dingbo said, "Now that we have had 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors of food, why don't we go together to see the performance of the disciples of Kyanitian Palace?" At Lu Dingbo's suggestion, Lu Zhonghua and Lu Guang did not hesitate too much and agreed to his proposal. Then they stood up and walked out. As a result, the people of the main branch of the Lu family, who were already eager to make a move, could no longer sit still. After Lu Zhonghua and others left, they quickly left their seats and rushed to the family martial arts arena. When Lu Ya and others arrived at the Lu family martial arts arena, Lu Hao and Lu Yangshan had already stood in the arena, 5 feet apart from each other. Seeing that almost everyone had arrived, Lu Yangshan's eyes flashed with a hint of success, and then he looked at Lu Hao and said, "Brother Lu Hao, please." Lu Hao took out the axe that was nearly as tall as a person, held it in front of his chest with both hands, and nodded seriously. "Brother Lu Yangshan, please." As the voice fell, Lu Hao's mana burst out with a burning breath, and the whole person rushed towards Lu Yangshan violently like a blazing fire. Before the people arrived, a flaming fire snake had already taken a step ahead of him and pounced towards Lu Yangshan. Seeing this, Lu Yangshan's magic power surged, and in just a moment, he condensed a star-studded protective shield in front of him. Then he pointed at Lu Hao with one hand and uttered a low shout. A strange wave spread from his fingertips and reached Lu Hao's footsteps almost instantly. At the moment when Lu Hao's foot landed, a pillar of fire as thick as a person rose from bottom to top and instantly engulfed Lu Hao. It's the 2nd-level intermediate spell of Kyanitian Palace, the Red Flame Pillar. At a fast speed, the main vein of the Lu family is deeply connected to Kyanitian Palace. When Lu Yangshan pointed it out with one hand, many people saw the spell he was going to cast. The extremely hot pillar of fire engulfed Lu Hao's burly body, but in the next second, a violent axe light passed by, and the pillar of fire that rose to the sky suddenly collapsed, revealing the tall figure of Lu Hao in it. Taking a step out of the remaining flames, Lu Hao's skin turned slightly red, and even the mana dissipating from his body was slightly red. His big eyes like copper bells locked onto Lu Yangshan's figure. The next moment, his body sank slightly, and after a bang, he disappeared instantly from the spot. At a fast speed, Lu Hao's momentum was so impressive that many cultivators who had not yet established their foundation exclaimed. Lu Zhonghua and Jinju's Henren watched the fight in the arena with great interest, and their expressions became a little solemn. Compared with Lu Yangshan's cultivation in the middle stage of foundation building, Lu Hao only had the cultivation in the early stage of foundation building, but even though there was a small difference between the two, Lu Hao still had the upper hand in the battle between the two. Even though Lu Hao's cultivation was slightly weaker, with his strong body and strength, as well as his extremely decisive and experienced combat handling, he still overwhelmed Lu Yangshan. Everyone, remember to vote. P.S. Thank you Yanzu for the reward for only watching M fees and not F fees. Thank you. Chapter 299 Sacrifice. Chief Dingbo, your grandson is not simple. At the edge of the martial arts arena, Master Kyanju looked at Lu Hao who was suppressing Lu Yangshan in the arena and said meaningfully. Master Kyanju is too kind. Lu Hao can only fight back and forth with Lu Yangshan because of his strong body. It's not worth mentioning. Lu Dingbo turned to look at Master Kyanju and explained with a smile. Master Kyanju didn't say much, just looked at Lu Yangshan who was in a rather embarrassed state in the arena. Lu Zhonghua also completely adjusted his mentality at this moment. He didn't expect that Yang Kui's lineage was just a junior in the early stage of foundation building, but he could actually surpass a small realm to suppress his opponent. Although in their view, foundation building is just the beginning of cultivation, and the gap between small realms is mostly between the amount of mana, but for cultivators who are also in the foundation building, sometimes a little more mana may be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Soon, as Lu Hao rushed to Lu Yangshan and chopped off his body shield with an axe blade, Lu Yangshan's face suddenly turned the color of liver. Looking at the axe blade hanging above his head, Lu Yangshan was stimulated by the murderous aura that seemed to be real. He did not dare to move at all, for fear that the other party would misunderstand and chop him down with an axe. Lu Hao put away the axe, without any complacency on his face, and just said lightly, "Thank you." Lu Yangshan finally reacted and replied a little slowly. The members of the main branch of the Lu family who were originally watching the battle around were like being silenced. They stared at the dejected Lu Yangshan with wide eyes in disbelief. Lu Yangshan lost? And he lost to cultivator in the early stage of foundation building. Isn't the seventh brother an inner disciple of Kyanitun Palace? Why did he lose so easily? This is impossible. Aren't they said to be a branch? How could there be such a talented cultivator? With the steady footsteps of Lu Hao, the originally silent martial arts field suddenly became lively, and chaotic voices rang out instantly. Lu Yangshan no longer had the pride he had before the competition. He lowered his head and went into the tribe and disappeared. Not bad. Lu Hao returned to Luya, who nodded and praised him. I didn't suffer in vain during this period. If I didn't win, it would be a shame, Lu Hao said with a chuckle. Haha, it's good that you know. Lu Yu looked him up and down, and only spoke calmly when the smile on Lu Hao's face disappeared. The atmosphere in the martial arts arena was still warm, but Lu Zhonghua's eyes were a little dull. The memories hidden in the deepest part of his mind slowly emerged from his mind at this moment. One day, I will surpass you, I will surpass everyone in the family, and bring the family to a new height. I, Lu Changfeng, will be the patriarch. It's not that I, Lu Changfeng, must be the head of this family, but I am the most suitable candidate. Isn't it just that I have to establish a foundation alone? Without the strong support of the family, brother Zhonghua, let time prove that I am better than you. The young man's high-spirited words seemed to be still vivid, but in the blink of an eye, everything has changed. At this time, Master Kaianju laughed and said, "It's worth the trip to see two such excellent juniors compete, old Zhonghua. I won't stay any longer." After saying that, Master Kaianju turned into a rainbow light and disappeared from everyone's sight. Lu Changfeng retracted his gaze and looked at Lu Dingbo and others and asked, "Dingbo, Lu Yan and everyone, since you are here, how about treating this place as your home and staying here for a while?" Hearing this, Lu Dingbo bowed and thanked him. "Thank you for your kindness, old ancestor Zhonghua, but we still have important things to do, and our clansmen are waiting for us at the Fees Hao post station, so we don't need to stay for a while, but we have another unreasonable request." "What unreasonable request?" "As long as you say it, we, the Lu family, will try our best to meet it as long as we can." Lu Changfeng waved his hand and said casually. Lu Dingbo pondered for a while before saying, "Ancestor Changfeng always wanted to worship his ancestors again, but unfortunately, he was unable to do so until his ancestors died. Since we are here, we want to fulfill our ancestors' wishes. I hope that Ancestor Changhu will fulfill them." "Worshipping ancestors in the family ancestral hall?" "Of course, there is no problem. The Lu family ancestral hall is one of the most core places of the entire Lu family. On weekdays, only the grand ceremony on the first day of each month is held inside the ancestral hall, and not everyone can enter. But the Yangqi lineage is different. First of all, there is the real Changfeng lineage, and then there are several foundation building cultivators, and most importantly, there is such a young Jinden's Henrun. Lu Ya's existence is like a blockbuster bomb. Although it has not exploded yet, the deterrent power it should have is not reduced at all." Faced with Lu Zhonghua's straightforwardness, everyone in the Lu family also breathed a sigh of relief. This is the best situation. If the other party does not allow it, they basically have no other means except using force. But by that time, they might really fall out. At least they are still maintaining a relatively good relationship. Since they have already agreed, the Lu family's main branch is very efficient. Before noon, they have prepared all matters. Under the leadership of Lu Guang, Lu Ye and others came to an ancient and solemn building. Above the main entrance of the building, there is a plaque with 4 big characters on it, which is Lu's ancestral hall. As Lu Guang activated a patriarch jade pendant in his hand, the closed door of the Lu's ancestral hall slowly opened, revealing the scene that has been shrouded in darkness for many years. Layers of tablets are like dominoes, which makes people feel that as long as the highest tablet is pushed down, all the tablets below will suffer. Following Lu Guang's footsteps, Lu Ye and others stepped into the Lu's ancestral hall. Just after entering the ancestral hall, I felt a hint of cold air rising from the soles of my feet and rushing straight to the top of my head. Ancestor Changfeng is a senior of the Chang generation, so their tablets are in that area, Lu Ya looked in the direction of Lu Guang's finger and saw rows of tablets lined up from top to bottom. Lu Dingbo walked over first, followed by Lu Ya and others. When seeing Lu Changfeng's tablet, even Lu Dingbo, the head of the family, couldn't help but burst into tears. This was the wish of their ancestors for decades, and it was never fulfilled until their death. Although there was only a tablet left here, Lu Dingbo was still respectful, and his attitude was not perfunctory or casual at all. After Lu Dingbo finished the sacrifice, Lu Ye and others also lined up in turn to offer sacrifices to Lu Changfeng's tablet and a group of Su ancestors. Chapter 300 ending. Until noon, the Yanke Lu family's sacrifice was finally over. Seeing that everything that needed to be done had been done, Lu Dingbo bowed to Lu Guang and said, "Patriarch Guang, the purpose of my Changfeng lineage's trip has been achieved. We will leave now. We hope you will forgive me for bothering you for a long time." Lu Dingbo's words were so straightforward that Lu Guang was very surprised. He looked at Lu Dingbo in surprise, as if he didn't understand why he said that. "Patriarch Dingbo, aren't you here this time to return, so that our two families can merge into one, and make the family's power even stronger?" "Return to the family," Lu Dingbo repeated, then shook his head slightly and said bluntly, "Patriarch Wang, our Lu family came here this time only to prove the achievements of our Lu ancestors and to sacrifice to our ancestors on their behalf. All other things are not within the scope of consideration." Lu Guang's breath was choked, and his expression was even more surprised. He had always believed that the Yanke Lu family acted in this way in order to fully display their strength and finally return to the main line smoothly, but he did not expect that the other party was simply trying to prove it. "Patriarch Dingbo, seeing how powerful the Lu family is now, isn't it enough for you to return to the Lu family? The main line has a close relationship with Kainitan Palace, and even the ancestor Chang Hu has become an elder of Kainitan Palace. Naturally, it is very powerful, but our decision will not change. This is also the result agreed by all of us in the Lu family." Lu Dingbo stood in place, looking at the Lu family ancestral hall behind him, with a hint of relief in his eyes. This gambling game that lasted for more than 200 years was finally won by their ancestor Changfeng. Moreover, their Lu family has a peerless genius like Lu Ya and a genius who has built a foundation like Lu Hao. Why worry about not having a prosperous time? They didn't belong here in the first place. If they were forced to integrate, they would only make themselves unhappy. Lu Guang was silent for a long time, and then he said, "I am obsessed. Chief Dingbo must have made a full plan. In that case, I will not waste your time." After that, he took out dozens of wooden boxes from the storage ring. Under the influence of his spiritual sense, Lu Ya just glanced at them casually and knew how many resources were in them. It must be said that the main branch of the Lu family was quite generous. There were 4 boxes of spiritual stones, and other elixirs, talismans, etc. were all available. Perhaps in the past, for the Lu family, this wealth was already a huge sum of money, enough for everyone in the Lu family to live a rich life for many years. But now, the Lu family no longer lacks these things. Moreover, compared with the actual materials, favors are more difficult to repay. Lu Dingbo looked at the 10 wooden boxes neatly placed in front of him and said with a smile, "Thank you for the kindness of Patriarch Wang, but Patriarch Wang, as the head of the clan, gave a large amount of resources to an outsider like our Lu family. It's not good to spread it out." Although Lu Dingbo still had a smiling face and said that he was worried about himself, in Lu Guang's eyes, Lu Dingbo had clearly rejected the supplies prepared by their Lu family's main branch. Lu Guang looked at the wooden boxes on the ground and asked, "Patriarch Dingbo, why are you doing this? Why do you say that, Taoist fellow Guang? These supplies are indeed not in short supply in our clan, otherwise we would not refuse the kindness of the nobles." Lu Dingbo did not speak, but Lu Ye took over his words and spoke fluently. However, before this, Lu Ye often called Lu Guang's ancestor, but this time he became a Taoist friend of the same generation. "Dongbo Taoist fellow Guang, please put these away, and we will say goodbye." After Lu Ye finished speaking, he turned around and walked out. Lu Guang's face was complicated, his right back slightly opened, watching the Lu family members gradually go away, with mixed feelings in his heart. After a while, Lu Guang appeared in Lu Zhonghua's room and told Lu Zhonghua everything that had just happened. After listening, Lu Zhonghua also sighed, "Draw a clear line, there is not even a little room for maneuver." After that, he was silent for a while, and sighed again, "Brother Changfeng, I am indeed not as good as you. Compared with you, I am just a dog guarding the land." Lu Zhonghua smiled self-deprecatingly. Lu Guang consoled him. If the ancestor was the same as the ancestor Changfeng, perhaps his achievements would not be lower than the current Changfeng lineage. It's impossible. I am too different from brother Changfeng. If I go out alone to establish a family, it may not take long before I die in a foreign land. Lu Zhonghua sighed again. Kainan City, Feeshao Post Station, Lu Ye and others returned to the inside of the flying boat. In the flying boat, all the cultivators in the late stage of key training gathered together and sat upright to look at Lu Dingbo. After looking around, Lu Dingbo smiled and began to say, "Everyone, we have completely settled the matter with the main branch of the Lu family in Kainan City. Later, we will set sail for our new home." Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. After the news of Changfeng's ancestor was spread, it spread throughout the Lu family at a very fast speed. Everyone was full of energy in their hearts, hoping to prove that they were not inferior to the other party in the main branch of the Lu family. But unexpectedly, the patriarch and others who were the pioneers had solved all the problems perfectly. But it was good that way. No one present had any good feelings towards the main branch of the Lu family. It was already good to be able to solve the mahjong problem quickly. After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, Lu Ya stood up and looked at the familiar face in front of him. Lu Ya said, "Our next stop will be Chenho territory, because I will have some personal matters to deal with in Chenho territory. Therefore, after entering Chenho territory, I will separate from the family flying boat and will come back to reunite after the matter is completed. The road ahead may most likely rely on the strength of all our Lu family members to cross." After Lu Ya finished speaking, the inside of the flying boat suddenly lost the hustle and bustle of the past, and everyone looked at Lu Ya with some discomfort. They have become accustomed to the existence of Lu Ya, the genius, or in a sense, with Lu Ya, they can practice with peace of mind without worrying about any danger. Lu Ya also understands the current situation, and Lu Dingbo also understands it. So on the way back, Lu Ya proposed this plan to Lu Dingbo, and Lu Dingbo agreed after just a little thought. Because he also found that if this continues, their Lu family cultivators will become fledglings living under Lu Ya's protection, and will never lose the ability to fly alone. The simplest, most direct and most efficient way to break this situation is to remove Lu Ya's protection from everyone and let everyone face the ups and downs in the future. The process may be difficult, but once it is overcome, all members of the Lu family will make great progress. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.